Testing. Good evening, councillors and members in the public gallery. I will officially open this evening's ordinary council meeting at 7 p.m. Thank you for your attendance tonight. I'd like to remind everyone in the chambers to ensure that comments are respectful to the council and all meeting attendees, including city officers and those in our public gallery. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. There are no announcements tonight. I'll move on to attendance. Councillor Ostaszewski has provided an apology for tonight's meeting and all other councillors are present in the chamber. I'll move on to applications for leave of absence. Are there any councillors who would like to apply for a leave of absence? Councillor Bull.
From Monday the 12th of June to Thursday the 15th of June.
Inclusive.
Thank you.
Thanks. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Monday the 12th of June to Friday the 16th of June inclusive.
Thank you. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you. The same Monday the 12th of June to Friday the 16th of June. Thank you.
Inclusive. Yep. Councillor Johnson.
From the 3rd to the 8th of July, please.
3rd of July to the 8th of July. Inclusive. Councillor Sutherland.
June the 15th to June the 18th, inclusive, and then June the 25th to July the 8th.
Inclusive, yep. Okay, can I please have a mover? Move Councillor Palmer, seconded Councillor Maleka. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. We'll now move on to disclosures of interest. Are there anyone like to disclose an interest? Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a number of interests to declare on item 10.1.1, an impartiality interest. I'll remain in the room. It relates to the Keeping and Control of Cats Amendment Local Law 2023. I know Dave Kelly, MLA, and Rachel Roberts have both raised this issue with me. So I'll remain in the room for that one. 10.2.1, the financial report for the period ended 30 April. I'm a member of the Bayswater Bowls Club. My husband's grandparents live in one of the city's care facilities. My son attends the Baysy Swim School. And so they're impartial interests. I'll remain in the room. And 10.2 sorry, I'm just double checking the numbering. 2, I believe. It would be 2.4. I'll just triple check that. But list of payments, again, I'm an impartial interest. I'm a member of the Bayswater Bowls Club. 10.3.2 is a proximity interest, and I'll leave the room. It relates to the Drake Street bike path design. It refers to a segment of Coode Street that is where my house is located. So I'll leave for that item. 10.6.1.2 is an impartial interest. It refers directly to Minister John Carey, who I know through the Labor Party, and 10.6.1.9 is the same one, an impartial interest, mentions Minister John Carey, and I'll remain in the room for both of those.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Item 10.3.3, the local bike plan. I have a proximity interest. There's a proposed bike path for the road on which I live, Railway Parade in Maylands. I'll leave the room for that one. And item 10.3.1, an indirect for the safe routes to school. I have an indirect financial interest in that one. My husband owns property on a segment of Caledonian Avenue that's got proposed works in that plan, so I'll also leave the room for that one.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson-Pick.
Yes, 10.3.1, Safe Routes to School Implementation Plan. I have an impartial interest as my kids attend the Maylands Peninsula Primary School, and I'm a member of the board of the school.
Thank
I will stay in the
you.
room.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. I think as I've previously declared, 10.4.2, proposed naming of laneway within the street block bordered by Crawford Road, Stewart Street, York Street, Alma Street, Maylands. I have an impartiality interest in this, my in-laws own property, adjacent to this lane on the other side of York Street in the city of Stirling Park. I'll stay in the room.
Thank you. Councillor Bull.
10.1.1 Keeping and Control of Cats Amendment Local Law 2023. Going to declare an impartiality interest. Gobber Lake is referred to in the current and proposed local law, which is opposite my house. No decision amending council's previous decision to include Gobber Lake in the local law is to be made by the decision tonight based on the report. Therefore, it is an impartiality interest and I'll stay in the room. And 10.3.2. Where are we? Drake Street bike path design. Impartiality interest. The proposed bike path goes past Hillcrest Primary School. I'm a member of the Hillcrest Primary School Board. As I said, it's an impartiality interest and I'll stay in the room.
Thank you. So we'll now move on to public question time. Members of the gallery, I'll first call for questions.
3 questions. The first one I've already submitted online, only because I'd like some sort of a reply, I will read it out. If council is to decide tonight to defer the substantive decision regarding clause 2.2 of the local cat laws for 1 month and ask the JSCDL to reconsider their position, what actual detriment is there to the city of Bayswater? My inquiries have there's no detriment.
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the governance manager to respond.
Through the chair, thank you for your question. So if the council decides to defer the item by 1 month tonight, what that means is that we will not be able to meet in full the undertaking that we've given to the JSCDL, which is that by the 6th of June, that we will have amended our local law. So that's the consequence of deferring a decision tonight, potentially, because there's not another council meeting before the 6th of June. In terms of what consequences that may have to the council, those would potentially be reputational consequences. So we've given the council's given an undertaking to a committee of Parliament, and we would be not following through on that undertaking. Other than that, I can't advise further.
Maybe that's the best thing if it does go to the Legislative Council, to be out in the open and discussed. Question 2. Madam Mayor, I commend you speaking openly many times about how you support transparency in local government. In fact, I recollect about the middle of last year, you put forward a motion for transparency in tenders, and then you supported Councillor Peterson-Pick's motion for improved transparency at meetings. Will you tonight put these significant actions into practice and, in the name of corporate governance best practice to be open and honest, that is transparent, move an amendment to the cat law motion to declassify the currently confidential legal advice and make it public?
Thank you for your question. I would have to, in terms of being transparent, where I think all of council does our best at all times to be transparent and open with the public where we can. In terms of making legal advice public, I would have to seek advice as to what implications that would mean for the city. We have received legal advice, and at this stage I've been advised that it is confidential. So to make that public, I'd have to say, I don't know what the implications are yet. So I'd have to look into that. I can go to the CEO to clarify.
Yeah, through the chair, the council's received confidential legal advice at this stage to enable them to inform the decision that's in front of them tonight. And it would remain confidential until they make that decision, because the decision is around the process that they will undertake with the Joint Standing Committee. But post that, the council could decide to make that legal advice public to the public once they've made that decision. But at this stage, it would need to remain confidential until they make that decision.
Ooh. Okay. Question 3. Sunday night, I counted 5 cats in Baringa, 3 in Eric Singleton, and 4 in Lightning Swamp. How many cats did the City of Bayswater Rangers trap in prohibited areas last week?
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the director.
Thank you, the Chair. We'll put in to take that on notice and get back to Mr Dyke.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bazidis?
Harry Bazidis, 21 Parkinson Street, Naranda. Madam Mayor, my questions relate to confidential items as well. In particular, item 14.1.1. I need to preface this by saying that I have no idea who the person being considered for the renaming of a park within the City of Bayswater, but I'm sure that they are worthy of your consideration. This issue has to raise, this issue I wish to raise is solely to do with confidentiality. My first question is, in the context of confidential items, can you please define personal affairs of a person?
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the governance manager to respond.
Thank you, through the chair. Generally, personal affairs would be things like details relating to that person's finances, or things relating to perhaps a contractual arrangement with that person. Just trying to think of some other examples for you.
Health issues?
Yes, certainly anything medical, anything to do, anything like that. Or I guess any matter that is between them, just that person and the city.
Okay, thank you. There seems to be a growing trend in the City of Bayswater to transfer perceived sensitive items into the confidential section 14 of each month's agenda. Sometimes it requires much imagination to try to justify the logic of this decision in one's mind. To me, at times, it's like bludgeoning a square peg into a round hole to justify the confidential status of an item. More likely, it feels that this is often done to exclude ratepayer scrutiny until the fait accompli is announced in the published minutes. It flies in the face of 3 statements commonly heard in this chamber: accountability, transparency, and we're here to serve the ratepayers. My question is, what personal affairs of a person are at risk of being exposed in the renaming of a park?
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the governance manager to respond.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I think I'd best take that question on notice.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I find it inconsistent with some of the other issues that are exposed in this room. For example, detailed plans of a person applying for a DA, an organisation seeking rate exemptions, naming finalists in an award gather prior to an award gathering. They're examples. I ask that councillors take a more aggressive stand in insisting that the CEO and senior management show meaningful rather than categorised reasons why the very people you represent are shut out of the public gallery month after month for what I consider to be routine council business. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question on an item on this evening's agenda?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ian Walters, 124 Lawrence Street, Bedford. My question relates to item 6, public question time, and I'll read it out. A summary of each question raised by members of the public at a meeting and summary of the response to the question will be indicated in the minutes of the meeting. Would you please tell me where the questions that I raised at the last meeting, where I can locate them in this 2 files, please?
Thank you for your question. I'll refer to the Manager of Governance or the CEO.
Through the Chair, my understanding is that the questions that you were asked at the last meeting, Mr Walters, were contained in the minutes, and the answers to those questions were also in the minutes.
So I can't hear you, and same as anyone up at the back, you can't hear what you're talking about.
I beg your pardon, sorry, through the
That's better.
Chair.
Thank you very much.
No problem. My understanding is that the questions that were taken, that were answered at the meeting, at the last meeting, which means that they were contained, the question and the answer were contained in the minutes for that meeting.
No, that's rubbish. I've been asking the question for 2 years and never got a response. So that's rubbish.
Mr Walters,
you.
I'll just go to the CEO.
Yeah, Mr Walters, I just wanted to clarify, did you not receive the personal communication from myself in relation to the
and I
responses?
phoned up a week ago and asked when could I expect some response, and that's why I'm here tonight.
Okay, well, I've signed a personal letter to you in response to those questions that you raised at the last meeting, and you should have got that by now. So I'll follow up first thing in the morning
All right, well,
and make
bear in
sure that
mind
you
the
get that
Australia
straight
Post
away.
is not the fastest in town.
Yeah, well, I'll make sure that you get that because I can recall signing off on that at least
you
a
very
few
much.
days ago.
Thank you. Ms Roberts?
Thank you, Rachel Roberts, 26B Armada Street, Bayswater. First of all, I wanted to personally thank all the City of Bayswater councillors for your ongoing representation of our community to pass effective keeping and control of cats amendment local law 2023. So it's item 10.1.1. Thank you for advising that the only consequence of not meeting the 6-month undertaking given to the JSCDL with respect to the local cat law is only reputational. That's the first time we've had information on that, so we're very grateful to receive that information. My first question was, is the council aware that the Joint Standing Committee for Delegated legislation has no authority to disallow clause 2.2 of our current local cat laws?
Thank you for your question. I'll refer to the Manager of Governance.
Through the Chair, I'm not entirely sure if I can answer that question properly, but what I will say is that when the City received a letter from the Joint Standing Committee asking us to make the undertaking that the Council subsequently did, the Joint Standing Committee did advise the Council that the Joint Standing Committee is able to disallow local laws. That's part of their function. So I believe that they are able to do that. In this case, they have not done that because the council has given them an undertaking that it will amend the local law itself.
Yeah, I would be interested to see that letter because my understanding is that the Joint Standing Committee has no authority to disallow clause 2.2. The only thing it can do is ask the Legislative Council to pass a disallowance motion. So it itself has no authority to do that. Why it sends my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, why it sends the letter to the council is because they enter negotiation with the council rather than put a disallowance motion into the Legislative Council that they hope to negotiate a resolution with council. And I just wondered if councillors ever understood that when they were asked to remove clause 2.2, if they understood in fact what was going on with the request was a negotiation.
It's a question of council, isn't it?
I think councillors have heard that. I think that's more of a question to all of council, and we've heard your question.
Yeah, so following on from that, I would encourage council to enter into that negotiation by returning putting back to the JSCDL that you do want to negotiate on this because there has been new information that you've received, new legal advice, that the Act contains no definition of effective control, that the clause 2.2 in effect does not breach the State Cat Act, and in that way that we can actually have councillors represent the community, which is what you have been doing with such great effect up until now. So I would hope that the negotiation that the JSCDL did request, that we could actually enter into that. And that is my question. Can we please do that?
Councillors have heard that question and will consider it. Thank you. Anyone else have a question on an item on this evening's agenda? Please come forward.
Good evening, Kim Stokes from Airways Boulevard in Maylands. And my question is in regard to the cat containment law, and does council have any concerns or reservations regarding the validity of the independent legal advice obtained by David Dyke?
I'll just go to the CEO.
Yeah, through the chair, I think the best response to that answer is that the items before council tonight to make a decision, council are aware of that independent legal advice because it was presented prior to the agenda briefing forum last week. So council will probably take that into consideration tonight as part of their deliberations on the matter.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question on an item on this evening's agenda? Please come forward.
Jeff Trott from Maylands. Does the council agree that by going back to the JSCDL and asking them to reconsider their decision or their stance on 2.2, that it has the benefit, regardless of what the outcome is, that it would add their voice to the already thousands of voices out there that are wanting the WA cut legislation to be overhauled because it is not fit for purpose and it doesn't promote or require responsible cat ownership?
Thank you for your question. I'm sure that'll be part of council's consideration of the item this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have a question on an item on this evening's agenda? If not, I'll move to questions not on this on the agenda. Anyone? Please come forward.
Lawrence Butler, 20 Langley Road, Bayswater. Verge trees. I recently received a letter from Parks and Gardens saying my verge was suitable for a tree. On Friday the 12th, I rang up Parks and Gardens to consult them on the numbers given on the letter. I spoke to a very nice young lady, explained the situation. She said someone would get back to me shortly. Nobody did. I again rang on Friday the 19th. I spoke with a different lady. I explained the situation again. My verge is pretty well fully planted out and underground retic. I do have one tree on the verge which I planted myself to replace one which died a number of years ago. I picked another spot where it is clear of retic, where I reckon a tree could go. I tried discussing it with this lady, and the final reply I basically got was, it's council land, we'll do what we want. Does this mean that the council are going to come along and dig up plants and reticulation when they want to?
Thank you for your question. I'm very sorry about the customer service. It wasn't up to your expectation. I will go to the director to respond.
And the second one I've got, traffic management planning. Now, they're holding surveys on the traffic management planning. There's supposed to be a meeting in 2 days' time here in the council chambers explaining what's going on in the area. But there's obstacle courses being put in already. No consultation there as far as I can see. So what's the point of having a survey if it's all foreclosed?
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the director first about the tree question, and then we'll go to the other director about the traffic management.
Yeah, through the chair, probably firstly I apologise for if staff... Can't hear you. First, I'll just apologise if staff have been rude to you and didn't give you a particularly good response. What we try to do is work with the residents in working out where the best location is for the trees. What we'll do is we'll be in contact with you and we'll come out and have a look and work out where the best place to plant the tree on your verge.
Thank you.
And in regards to the low-cost urban road safety program, what we're doing with the meeting is that we're calling people in to actually talk about the locations, what's proposed for the traffic treatments. So I urge you to come along to that meeting. You can discuss it with staff. I'll be there as well, and you can I'm there to listen and see what your viewpoints are, and we'll take that into consideration.
Well, from what I can see, it's already forgone with the amount that's already going in without even coming to a council meeting, which it says in the letter.
Yeah, through the chair, if I could just answer that. I think there's two separate processes here. There's the low-cost urban road safety program that Luke just referred to, but there's also some temporary traffic calming work that's gone in associated with the Bayswater Station works and the road closure of Railway Parade for 15 months. So those works are temporary only and will be taken out 2 weeks after the opening of the link road once that's put in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, councillors, the city has received questions in writing from 2 ratepayers. These questions and the responses from officers have been listed in your run sheet, and I will take those as read. We'll now move on to item 7, confirmation of minutes. There is a correction of the minutes of the ordinary council meeting of the 28th of March 2023 as detailed in your agenda. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Move, Deputy Mayor. Seconded, Councillor Palmer. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. We also have confirmation of the minutes for the ordinary council meeting of the 26th of April 2023 with an amendment as detailed in tonight's agenda. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved, Councillor Palmer. Seconded, Deputy Mayor. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. Move on to item 8, presentations. First one is a petition. I do have a petition to table. However, it is in regards to an item on this evening's agenda, the bike plan, and the Deputy Mayor, you've declared a proximity interest, so I'll ask you to leave the room. Okay, so I have a petition here with 98 signatures. I'll just read it out. It says, we the undersigned wish to state our opposition to the proposed extension of the cycle lane on Railway Parade from Mayland Station through to 3rd Avenue. The initiator of the petition is Paul Heatley, a resident of Maylands. So I will pass that on. And can I have a...
Business?
That's what I read. I've read out what they've put into the petition. So we, the undersigned, wish to state our opposition to the proposed extension of the cycle lane on Railway Parade from Mayland Station through to 3rd Avenue, and 98 signatures. So can I have a mover and a seconder? Move, Councillor Eveson, seconded Councillor Palmer. Put that to the vote. All those in favour? To accept to receive the petition. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. Can we please call the Deputy Mayor back in? Thank you. Do any councillors have any petitions to table? No? I'll move on to, there are no presentations and deputations were heard at last week's agenda briefing forum. And there are no delegates' reports this evening. So we'll move on to item 9, method of dealing with agenda business. And we'll now, pulling first this evening is Councillor Mleka.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to pull items 10.3.1, 10.4.1 and 10.5.1. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just having a second. Councillor Palmer?
Thank you, I'm passing.
Councillor Eveson?
Yes, I'd like to pull 10.3.3, bike plan, and 14.1.1, the Cosentino. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, what was the second one?
So last one's a confidential, 14.1.1.
Thank you. Councillor Sutherland?
No.
Councillor Eveson, can you turn off your microphone,
Sorry.
please? Councillor Sutherland?
No.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Item 10.4.2, 10.4.6, and that was all. Hang on. Yes, that was all.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson-Pick?
10.4.3 and 10.4.4, both of them to vote against.
Sorry, it was 10.4.3.
And 10.4.4.
Thank you. Councillor Bull?
Thank you. 10.6.1.2, 10.6.1.5, 10.6.1.7, and 10.3.2 actually as well.
Sorry, 10.3.
3.2. Sorry, that's going backwards. But thanks.
Councillor Clark?
Thank you, Mayor. Can I just double check? 10.1.1, no one's pulled that, but
not yet.
That as a result, would that come forward because of the deputations anyway, or?
Yeah, no, yes.
Okay, then I don't have anything to pull. Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Johnson?
I don't think I've got anything else.
Okay. Thank Councillor Sutherland.
Sorry, I didn't have a proper look. Could I please pull 10.4.6 just to vote against it?
10.4.6, that's already been pulled. Yeah. Okay. So, thank you, councillors. All good. We'll first consider the items that were subject of deputation. So can I please have a mover and a seconder to bring items 10.1.1, 10.3.1, 10.3.3, 10.4.1 and 10.4.2 forward to the beginning of section 10 for discussion before we resume the order of business as set out in the agenda. Move Councillor Sutherland, seconded Councillor Palmer. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Is unanimous. Thank you. Okay. So, councillors, before we begin with discussion of item 10.1.1, please note that if you wish to discuss the legal advice in the confidential attachment, we will need to go behind closed doors. So, as no one's pulled this, I have submitted in advance a proposed alternative motion, which is in your run sheet, and I'll just ask the minute taker to put that on the screen. And I'll read that out. That Council defers consideration of the draft Keeping and Control of Cats Amendment Local Law 2022 as contained in Attachment 3 to allow time for 1. the Mayor and the CEO to seek guidance from the Chair of the Joint Standing Committee on Delegated Legislation and the Minister for Housing, Lands, Homelessness and Local Government prior to 6 June 2023 to obtain further information to inform the City's position on this matter. And 2, a report back to Council to advise the outcome of Lim 1 above and provide further guidance on next steps. The reason for this change is, I'll ask if there's a seconder. Councillor Eason, thank you. The reason for this change is the deferral of this item will allow time for myself and the CEO to seek further clarification from the Joint Standing Committee on Delegated Legislation on whether or not it will be willing to consider the legal opinion presented by community members from Castle Dine Gregory, dated the 5th of May 2023, and the advice sent to the Joint Standing Committee on Delegated Legislation from the Honourable John Kerry, Minister for Housing, Lands, Homelessness and Local Government. So, councillors, you would have been provided today some correspondence from the Minister advising that his position is that the City's clause corresponds to the intent of the CAT legislation. You're also aware of the legal advice that the community provided to the Joint Standing Committee. Our undertaking is, we won't be in breach of our undertaking until post 6th of June. So we have time now, between now and the 6th of June, to follow through and find out some more information before we're actually in breach of that undertaking. And that's why I'm putting forward this alternative motion to provide us the opportunity to seek.
Mayor, sorry to interrupt. Are we in debate currently?
I'm doing my opening.
Okay, in which case I wanted to disclose a impartiality interest again in relation to Minister John Kerry.
You did that at the beginning of the meeting.
No, not in relation to this item, because he wasn't mentioned. It was in relation to the other 2 items where he was directly mentioned later on in the agenda.
Okay.
So if I could just disclose that now, given the amendments. Okay, and yeah, all right, and then I have some questions.
Sorry, you declared impartiality because of Dave Kelly and Rachel Roberts on this item.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Okay,
now
so
I'd like
just
to
adding.
disclose an additional item in relation, now that it directly refers to Minister for Housing, John Kerry. Yeah.
Yep, no problem. Thank you. So I don't know where I was now. So I think we've got an opportunity now. It is a short window before we are in breach of our undertaking to be able to seek further clarification or reasoning from the Joint Standing Committee to see if the new information that's been provided to them changes their opinion. So I think we should take that opportunity. Councillor Eason.
Not much to add, Madam Mayor. I think it is fair and reasonable, and thanks to the community members that have been with us this whole way. Hopefully that this one will get up. So,
would anyone like to speak against? Councillor Clark.
Not to speak against. I had a couple of questions. I suppose first of all the timing. So normally when we do a deferral, we would say when we're deferring it to. This is obviously contingent on a response from a third party. So what, and perhaps the CEO might have considered this, what if we don't end up getting responses and guidance before the date of the enforceable undertakings?
Thank you. I'll go to the CEO.
Yeah, through the chair. If that happened, councillor, then we would still need to come back and have a special council meeting to consider the matter, because there's still that undertaking with the Joint Standing Committee of that 6-month time frame. What this in essence does is give us that extra couple of weeks now until the 6th of June to try and meet that time frame, but also seek some further advice and clarity in relation to what some of the consequential impacts would be and things like that.
Just the only other question I had was, I suppose, and maybe it's implicit in Lim 1, but is the idea that the City of Bayswater would be seeking essentially the committee's reconsideration of their interpretation of this, that they would then consider perhaps a broader interpretation that permitted this segment of the law to be enforceable?
I'll go to the CEO.
Yeah, I think through the chair, the expectation to get the committee to reconsider it by that 6th of June would be unrealistic. My understanding is that the next committee meeting of the Joint Standing Committee is on the 14th of June. I think it would be to seek an undertaking from them on an extension of the deferral of the undertaking process. So that 6-month time frame could be extended to another time frame to allow the Joint Standing Committee to either reconsider and provide some clarity.
Would you like to speak on the item?
Perhaps, but I might just digest everything I've just heard and I might speak in favour of it, but I'm happy to have others jump in. I'm conscious the opposition should go first.
So anyone speaking against? Councillor Peterson-Pick.
I'd like to start with a question, if I can, just follow-up questions from Councillor Clarks. So if, from what I understand with regards to this amendment or motion, if the Joint Standing Committee Chair, the first question, does the Chair actually has the ability to extend the time frame?
Through the Chair, I'm not aware if the Chair would have that ability. My understanding with speaking with their office is that the Chair could potentially get out to other committee members and seek some assurance, but we don't know, Councillor. This time frame will allow that to occur.
And if the Chair...
Sorry, can I just add something to that? They could also decide to call a meeting if they wanted to. So the next one's scheduled for the 14th of June. I believe they have the ability to call a meeting earlier if they chose
call a
to
meeting
do
especially for our local law. And if the Chair or the committee will say, no, you do not get an extension, what does that mean? That we actually breach the 6-month time frame?
No, through the Chair, as I responded to Councillor Clark's questions, is that we would need to come back before the 6th of June at a special council meeting to then consider the item for council to then have a position on it.
Thank you. Yes, I will speak now. Thank you. Look, I will not support this. I think it is better than what was recommended by the officers. So I think it's a better move, but this is not what I think council should do. I will be consistent. On the 6th of December 2022, when the issue was discussed as a confidential item, I did not support taking the undertaking. I thought it is a mistake to do this, and I will explain soon again why. And also I voted against closing the doors to discuss this issue. I think there was a person here that talked about why so many items are being discussed behind closed doors, and I support that. I just would like to reiterate that council made a decision to minimize the number of items, and this was one of the items that I thought should be discussed publicly without even referring to the confidential letter from the Joint Standing Committee. Now we have an opportunity to actually not proceed with the undertaking, and that will avoid all those scenarios of a special council meeting, especially to discuss this issue, and counting on what the Joint Standing Committee will do and asking them whether they can reconsider the interpretation of our local law. My view is very clear, and I think it is supported by the advice that we received from Kessel, Dine, Gregory, and I would like to thank David Dyke for providing us that advice. I support everything that was written there. This is how I understand the legislation. We definitely have the power. It is not in breach. If the Joint Standing Committee on Delegated Legislation thinks that it's on breach, they have the ability to recommend to the Legislative Council to disallow. They do not have the power to disallow it. They just recommend it. This is the process. They have never told us that they will disallow it. They just indicated that we should reconsider. And I think now it's an opportunity for council to say we reconsidered, we followed some process, we now understand it was a mistake. Closed, we have legal advice indicating that the interpretation is clear. We have community feedback that does not support the change. We are not proceeding with the undertaking, apologizing for any confusion, and it's up in your hands. We would like to continue with the current local law that we have, which was already gazetted. This is what we're discussing. We're discussing changing it, just doing nothing and giving it back to the Joint Standing Committee. This is what we should do, not continue deferring things, deferring decisions. Then it will come back to us again, maybe to a special council meeting, to have further discussions. We actually, by supporting this, we would say that we agree with the interpretation. And I do not support the interpretation at all. I think it is valid. What we did in our local law. This debate should not occur behind closed doors between the mayor and the CEO and the chair. It should happen publicly. It should be in Parliament with our member of parliaments raising their views and their comments on this issue, so our community members can actually lobby them and making sure that this is done properly. This is not the first time. We already have 2 shires besides Northam, or including Northam, that already did a similar clause. So we are just following what was already approved. The Joint Standing Committee at no stage explained why our local law is different, clause 2.2, to what was approved by Northam. So there are so many problems with this process, which I think can be the base for tonight to actually go back to the Joint Standing Committee on Delegated Legislation and say we are not proceeding with this undertaking. Look, the impact on wildlife, I don't need to speak about this. I think it's well known to everyone, but I do not think that you can say that we understand the impact on our wildlife, but still deferring this issue. I don't think you can say the same thing. If there is an impact, we are saying this in place, we are keeping it as is. If you have a problem, Parliament, you'll change it. You'll disallow it. It's in your hands. We'll do what we think we should do. I also would like to make it clear, I do not work for the 8 MPs that are part of the committee. I work for the ratepayers of the city of Bayswater, and I think this is what we all do here. We should do what it's our job, and they will do what they think they should do. I'll finish by saying I do not support, we can't speak about the details of the legal advice that we received, but I can say that I do not support anything that was written there for the record. And it is unfortunate that we can't actually discuss the details because it does can influence decisions of councillors without being able to actually explain to residents of the community what was actually said there. So again, I do not support anything that was written there, nothing. And I can say from a personal perspective, I've been dealing with developing and implementing of legislation as part of my daily job. And this is what I do for a living. This is the expertise that I provide to council. And the legal advice received by Castledine is very accurate. And this is the right interpretation of the Act. We do have the ability to make clause 2.2. I'll finish with that.
Thank you, Councillor Bull.
Just a question first. So the first limb says the Mayor and the CEO to seek guidance. Is it possible to get some kind of detail around what is meant by seek guidance from the Chair and the Minister?
I'll go to the CEO.
I think through the Chair, the seeking guidance from the Chair of the Joint Standing Committee is guidance on whether the Joint Standing Committee will reconsider the matter, whether they will consider a deferral of the process to allow the Council to consider the options in front of them, and just getting that time. So seeking the guidance so that we don't have to meet that 6th of June timeframe at the moment and be in breach of what the Joint Standing Committee have put on Council. So that's what we mean in terms of some of that guidance and trying to do that over the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Can I propose an amendment to what's on the table to amend the date of 6 June 2023 to Friday 2nd June 2023?
Would you mind, before I accept the amendment or not, could you provide some reasoning?
6th of June 2023 is the date of expiry of the undertaking. If we're waiting until 6th of June for guidance, we will be in breach of the undertaking. And so making the date we're aiming for being the 2nd of June means that we have 4 days in order to reconvene as a council if we need a special council meeting prior to, or 3 days prior to the date upon which the undertaking will expire.
It says prior to 6 June. Huh? So do you want to change it to 2nd June? I accept it. Does the seconder accept it? Yep.
Okay,
Happy
thanks.
to make that amendment.
I'll speak now.
Go ahead.
I'm going to support what is on the table. I'd like to firstly say thank you, or actually firstly I'd like to say that I'm really grateful that I'm at last able to speak on this item. It's been particularly frustrating for the last however many months, and so I'm really thankful that I'm able to do that. I would also like to publicly thank all the community who has been spending a lot of their personal time, hours, heartache to get across this issue, to advocate for this issue, and we see many, many of them here, but no doubt this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the number of people within our community who are very passionate about making sure that this council makes the right decision on this local law. I do agree with Councillor Peterson-Pick with everything that he said. However, I will support what's on the table because I think that it is important to give the city an opportunity to touch base with the Joint Standing Committee and also with the Minister to see whether, as the CEO said, whether some reprieve is able to be provided, and also hopefully some advocacy as well through those consultations with the Chair and the Minister to seek a different view in terms of the enforceability of Clause 2.2 in the local law. I look forward to coming back to Council and voting to keep Clause 2.2, and I wish the Mayor and the CEO good fortune as they advocate for all of our community in getting the right outcome here.
Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to speak in favour of the amendment, and I would encourage councillors to support this amendment. First of all, thank you to all of the locals out there and the campaigners and the environmentalists and conservationists who have been fighting to change the law on this. I think part of the difficulty with this issue and this process, and it genuinely is one of the most complex that has come before us in this council since I've been elected. We have, gone into the intricacies of delegated legislation, some arcane procedures around the state parliament, and I literally almost have to pull the second hand out to count the number of pieces of legal advice that we've reviewed. And one of the difficulties with legal advice, and friends of mine who are not lawyers always laugh about this. They sort of say, put yourself in a room with 5 lawyers and you'll get 5 different answers, and that's no discredit to the profession of the law, but there is often debates and disagreements in interpretation. So I'd like to thank the Mayor and the CEO for working so diligently on this issue in terms of the procedure and the process, and from the Mayor putting forward this amendment. I think this is the way forward, and I say to those in the gallery, I can't guarantee we get the outcome we want, but we have to act in the best interests of the City of Bayswater. And so in acting in the best interest of the City of Bayswater, we've got to, to represent our ratepayers, but we also have to work within the bounds of the law and the system that we operate in. There are many days I'd like to be out with a flag on the picket lines, to being a bit more of a revolutionary, but the more I think about it is we are working within this system. And so I want to make a comment as well around the push for the city from members of the public to disclose our legal advice. It is protected currently by legal professional privilege, and it can only be waived by the client, which is in this case the council. And I don't think we should waive that. I know that everyone wants to see what it says, and it's frustrating that there are elements to this that are confidential, but if the city can't go away and get its own independent legal advice, then we can't really make good decisions. We can't manage our own legal risk. We can't manage our litigation risk as well. So if someone down the track is caught up in some of these laws and then wants to challenge it, if our legal advice is available on Google, then we're going to end up spending a lot more in the courts, and we're going to spend a lot more on lawyers. So even though it's a bit of an arcane principle, important but difficult principle about why this is confidential, it is important for the city. So I just wanted to make that point. And I think part of the way through is to write to this committee and ask them to reconsider their position. And particularly to consider how we do this in the timeframes of the undertakings. So I would also not be in favour of the city breaching its own undertakings. When you make an undertaking, you're basically saying, this is what I'm going to do. And you should do what you say you're going to do. So it's important that if we're going to change our position on that, we would have to consider how we would amend or revoke or withdraw those undertakings. And so to those campaigners out there and environmentalists out there, I want to say keep fighting for it, because the actual fix, the legal fix here, is actually to change the CAT Act. and the state parliament can do that. I wish we could do that for you tonight. If we could do that more quickly and more simply, but I don't think we can do that. So I'd encourage those to keep fighting for this issue, and we'll do our best from the City of Bayswater.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Would anyone else like to speak on this item? Councillor Palmer?
Just very briefly, Madam Mayor, I do agree with the amendment. I also thank Councillor Bull for just itemising the detail of it and moving that little bit of amendment on the date. Very important. And I hope and pray that we are using every minute which we have until the 6th of June, and that the community realise that we are all on one side in this effort to get 2.2. I really can't see why, you know, once we have all of the wonderful bush work and bush land protected, it's just as easy to go the next step and have cat containment for their safety. So I'm fully in support, and I wish the Mayor and the CEO good luck, and give us a good answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on this item? No? So thank you for all your comments. I was going to try and explain the process and why sometimes council is limited in what we can do, but I think Councillor Clark explained it perfectly, so I won't even go there. And I'll put this straight to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Maleka, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Eason, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull, Councillor Clark, Councillor Johnson and myself. All those against, Councillor Sutherland and Councillor Peterson-Pick. That is carried. Thank you to the gallery. Okay. So the next item is item 10.3.1, Safe Routes to School Implementation Plan. Councillor Maleka, are you moving the officer's recommendation? Yes. Can I have Councillor Sutherland seconded? Go, Councillor Maleka. Sorry. Yes.
I'll be leaving.
If we just wait for the Deputy Mayor to leave. Councillor Maleka. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a really important plan, and an important one that we should endorse, because it will help inform the direction of our business plan, which obviously will help in turn inform our budget process and our budgetary decisions. So I'd like to acknowledge Councillor Peterson-Pick for the hard work he's placed on this one. A couple of highlights for me that I'd like to point out from this plan as well is that if we endorse this and it's carried through, we see an improved streetscape as well, with maintenance and upgrading of footpaths, making them safer and more accessible, which is always important. So it's a win-win for the city and the community. And also tree pruning to improve the sightlines. So again, just in essence, I think this is a really important plan for us to endorse.
Councillor Sutherland.
Is that better? Yep. Yeah, I also want to endorse this Safe Routes to School plan. I think, as I say in a lot of these forums, that Bayswater is a big council, and I do realise when you go down to Maylands, obviously Maylands Primary School is one of the biggest now in the metro area, and you have got a lot of main roads around there, and this is a good idea to get the kids out walking and feel confident, or parents feel confident to do that. And it's also great that it's in our integrated planning and will form part of our business plan, so it will be doable. I also, one of the reasons another reason I like this is, as Councillor Malika said, it is very good to clean up the streets. So for me, the streetscape is a big thing, and I think this will be good for that in all areas of the city of Bayswater eventually. So yeah, I think it's a great initiative.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against? Anyone for? Councillor Peterson-Pick?
Yes, I will support this. First of all, I would like to thank the officers for preparing this implementation plan and the council for supporting my motion to have this implementation plan, and all the community members who supported this process. It was a long one, including the principal of the Maylands Peninsula Primary School. I'm not sure that there are so many principals that are so committed to this kind of initiatives, and he has been the whole way coming to council meetings. So I would like to, I don't know if he will listen, but I would like to thank him personally for taking the time to advocate on behalf of the whole school, and this is the results. Look, when I initiated this, I think it was 2019, the previous council supported it. This is what we see now, this is what I envisaged. Exactly this, the long table, the community can actually be aware what needs to be fixed, and we can gradually and fix this one after issue after issue, allocate the relevant funding and deal with those issues to promote children's safety, to get more people to walk, to cycle, to scoot, and especially in an area like Maylands, because this was our pilot, which is, we have so much urban infill, so many people are forced, because of the distances, to actually walk because of the traffic around the school. So this was a must, and this will ensure that we are providing the right infrastructure. This is, and I did my research when I initiated this, this is, from what I understand, it's the first of its kind in Western Australia, and I believe in the country as a whole. I have not seen any other local government that did something like this, definitely not in this detail. We are taking responsibility for the infrastructure around schools. This is what we're actually saying. And this is not like the Your Move that the Department of Transport are doing. Two different things. They are dealing with the education element, how we actually get people to walk mentally. We are dealing with what we are responsible for, and this is what I was keen to do. We are responsible for the roads, for the footpaths, for the crossings, and now we are slowly going to address them. I hope that the main roads now will be with us on this. This is why I wanted this plan, so it will be easier to make those changes. It took me 4 years to get the zebra crossing in front of the main entrance to the school, and that is not reasonable. 4 years for a zebra crossing in front of the main. And that was the moment that I decided it's beyond me, it's beyond even the school. We need a plan supported by the council, and this is why I'm very glad that we will get the support hopefully tonight. So let's just do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against? Anyone for? If not, I'll go to the mover to close.
Well, I think you've summed that up beautifully, Councillor Peterson-Pick. And look, let's hope this could be the first of many, a trailblazing implementation program.
I'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. Can we call the Deputy Mayor back in? Oh, sorry. She's declared a proximity in the next item, so perhaps we'll get her to stay out, no problem. So the next item is the local bike plan, and this is being pulled by Councillor Eveson. Are you moving the officer's recommendation?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Pardon?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Palmer, Councillor Eveson.
Much like the Safe Routes to School program that I just supported, I'm supportive of projects that elevate the core business of asset maintenance, renewal and asset upgrades across our city. This plan is positioned with many other plans the city already has to shape the future of our district. It strikes a balance of being aspirational but also being practical, and there is further consultation with community to ensure we have this balance right. Moving forward, inclusion of this program in our business planning process helps council continue towards an improved financial visibility with a focus on financial sustainability.
Councillor Palmer?
Thank you. I think very briefly, roads, footpaths are very much our business, core business, and the footpaths here do need to be expanded. The cycling needs to be expanded. That's the future with e-skates and e-bikes and so forth. Therefore, we need to take as much concentration on footpaths as we do with roads, and I'm very happy with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against? Councillor Peterson-Pick? Oh, sorry, Councillor Johnson.
Unless Councillor Johnson. Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Johnson had the...
Path, right?
It's the local bike plan review 10.
Thank you. I haven't heard anyone say bikes yet. I was so confused. Okay. There's a lot to be said about doing a new bike plan. It's well and truly overdue. We progressed most of our previous one. We didn't get it all right. And since the last one, the long-term cycle network has been proposed. There's a lot of stuff in this. It doesn't, to me, tell me how we're going to implement the long-term cycle network, and I think that's really important. I do know in the feedback that we got we got some additional information about how this plan responds to the community feedback, a lot of community feedback, and not much time to consider it. And those items haven't been incorporated into this plan. It does say in that feedback that those things will be included in the implementation plan. I just really want to think about tightening up Lim 2 of this one. So I don't know if, I haven't really got any words for an amendment, but something to the effect of it, the community feedback being incorporated into the implementation plan. I'm just wondering if someone could suggest any words that would be better.
Okay, if you don't have the wording, I'm going to move an adjournment for 5 minutes. Can I have a seconder? So that we can get the wording right. Seconded, Councillor Peterson-Pick. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour of the adjournment is Councillor Maleka, Councillor Peterson-Pick and myself. All those against? It's Councillor Palmer, Councillor Eveson, Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Bull, Councillor Clark and Councillor Johnson. Did you have your hand up before? Okay, it's lost. So we'll just sit here while you get your wording correct and what the implications are, please.
Okay. Yeah, so Lim 2 to read supports the development of an implementation plan for the recommendations included in the local bike plan, incorporating the feedback from the community, the community consultation, and then it continues as normal with projects to be considered.
I'll ask the mover and seconder if they accept that amendment.
Madam Mayor, on page 175, we've got community engagement analysis. All of this has been done.
Sorry, I'll just ask the mover and the seconder if they accept the amendment.
Yep. I think it's already incorporated in the motion and the process that we already undertake, so I think it's just additional wording. So it's fine
So
as
is
it
that
is.
yes?
So no thanks.
No?
I'm fine as it is, yeah.
No, Councillor Palmer, are you? If you could
Madam
please.
Mayor, as far as I've read this through, it's already here in black and white. And
So, Councillor
pictures.
Johnson, would you like to debate? They haven't accepted the amendment. Would you like to debate the amendment?
Yes, I would.
Okay, we'll just finish it and then I'll ask for a seconder.
Sorry, just for the minute taker, can we just highlight the components of the actual amendment so councillors can see what they're actually considering? So is that correct, Councillor Johnson?
Thank you.
So seconded by Councillor Bull. Councillor Johnson, if you'd like to speak to the amendment.
Thank you. I just note there wasn't a lot of time for the community feedback to come in. I understand it was 4 days or 4 working days for these items. They haven't been included into the implementation plan. They've just been provided to us separately as a separate report. It does say in it, when it addresses it, that they will be included in the implementation plan, but that's not... That was provided to us after this recommendation is written. That this recommendation, in my mind, doesn't consider that additional information, and I would like to see that extensive amount of community feedback with positive comments about saying they would be included, actually be included, because there's some very good feedback.
Thank you. Councillor Ball.
Yeah, I'll support this amendment. Notwithstanding the comments from Councillor Eveson, I've received a fair bit of feedback from the community concerned that they feel that the comments that they've provided through the consultation process have not been listened to, and I think it's really important to effectively codify the fact that we are going to be spending more time reflecting on that feedback and incorporating that into the implementation plan. It provides certainty, and that's, I think, really important. And the feedback that I have from the community is that that is what they would like as well.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against the amendment? Councillor Palmer.
Thank you. I really respect that. I would love everybody, every single resident to come forward and give us their genuine comments. I just read carefully here on page 175. A survey was made available online, hard copy. I'm just saying briefly here. An interactive map was provided to the community to let the city know about the areas of concern. A face-to-face was held at Riverside Gardens. So there's a whole list here of the online and person-to-person discussions, and this is in the actual draft that we're discussing tonight. It's not an addendum that's just flown in. This is part of it on page 175, and it goes on further. So to me, it's already there. I'm so sorry I'm being contradictory on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Clark.
I just want to speak in favour of the amendment.
Go ahead.
So councillors, I don't know how many of you, there's a couple of councillors who got elected when I got elected who know that I hate bike riding, like hate it with a passion, was never good at it as a kid, took me ages to get the training wheels off. Mum tells a story of them raising the training wheels every weekend and me just slightly tilting to the left or the right. So it's not my thing at all. But I recognise that there are many, many people in our community for whom this is their thing. They love riding bikes and they want to do it everywhere and for every purpose, for every different type of bike and to get to different places. And actually, I think I'm just trying to remember who else was on the committee, but we used to have on this City of Bayswater a bike committee, which was actually quite useful. And I think Councillor Bull was on it with me. I think Councillor Johnson may also have been on it. And I think Councillor Bull's goal was to get me riding a bike as part of this committee, which he failed miserably at. But what it did show me was that each of the streets that bike riders use, they use them quite differently and it changes really organically, and depending on what kind of bike rider you are, you use your pathways very differently. So I think the more that we incorporate what people are actually saying, because if someone's taken the time to say, actually along this street it needs to be 4 inches further off to the left, then that's because they ride that path every morning, and that is a safety risk for them as well. So every time I walk down around Bayswater train station at the moment, my heart is in my throat, because the safety issues that are going on down there with both pedestrians and cyclists, we have got to do better in this space. And what I do love about this is that all of the list of action items are really clear and really specific. So we as councillors will be able to track what out of the short, medium and long term has actually been delivered and when it's been delivered.
Thank you. Anyone like to speak against the amendment? If not, anyone for? I'll go to the mover to close on the amendment.
Thank you for that. Just want to clarify any misunderstanding, perhaps. This item, the the consultation for the development of the draft local bike plan was commenced last year, and there was the consultations that Councillor Palmer has kindly pointed out. I'm talking about since the draft local bike plan. The draft Bayswater bike plan was out in the community, and the timeframe for that closing to the deadline for preparing the agenda for this meeting was very, very short. So all the comments on the draft plan, I don't think were fairly represented or included into the bike plan with respect, because there was a lot of comments made. A lot of them were provided to us in a separate table, and they said things like include maps. And the response from the office is, yes, good idea, we will do that. But that's not incorporated into the plan that we see in front of us. So they're the examples of the types of things to be included that were just compressed into a very short time, just as an opportunity for that feedback to be properly included. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put the amendment to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Peterson-Pitt, Councillor Bull, Councillor Clark and Councillor Johnson. All those against? Councillor Maleka, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Easton, Councillor Southern and myself. We now go back to the substantive motion. Anyone wishing to speak for, against? Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, look, I will vote against, especially now when the amendment did not actually, was not incorporated in the main motion. First of all, I would like to thank the officers and the consultants for preparing this plan. It's a major piece of work, and I'm sure that a lot of time was invested in preparing this. I would like to thank all the many community members that took the time to participate in the different stages of consultation. I also would like to reiterate what Councillor Johnson mentioned, and I have the dates. The consultation, the second stage, the recent one, closed on the 4th of May, and we already had the agenda with the item and the final draft on the 11th of May, which is 5 business days. I believe in the capabilities of the city, 5 business days to incorporate all the massive big points that were raised by community members, and we've seen some of them. That's not enough. And just for the look of it, I think it should have been deferred to June to actually show people that we actually are taking the time to consider it. 5 days is not enough. The main and I will say main cycling advocates in the city of Bayswater that I'm aware of, the people who actually take the time to provide deputations to lobby councils that really care about this issue as much that actually they do the work behind the scenes, they all spoke against this. They all, and I think some of them provided deputations, some others contacted me directly. They actually said that we're not even bothering to make a deputation. We understand that it will not be heard because the feedback was not actually incorporated. So for me, that's for itself an indication that there is a major problem with this. If none of them are happy, and they are the people who specialize in those issues, they take the time. I also share some of the concerns that they raised, especially the point with regards to the over-focus on footpaths. I raised this issue as well at the first stage of consultation, and this is not the solution. To widen the footpaths and send all the cyclists on the footpaths and have conflict between pedestrians and cyclists, conflict between pedestrians, seniors, people with disabilities, parents with kids, and prams with electronic scooters. This is not the solution for the future. This is the plan that should prepare us for the future. A lot from the 2014 bike plan was not implemented. Now this is an opportunity to start fresh. This council can actually have something that we can be proud of, and we can actually say this will fit what we need. And as we had, it will not. Cyclists, we need to make all the effort, even if it's hard, even if we need to reconfigure roads, we need to try as hard as we can to fit them on the road with safe cycling paths, not on the footpaths. It is not safe. It's not the future to have e-scooters with pedestrians. This is actually a safety risk for both cyclists and for pedestrians, and I cannot support this just for that. I do have other concerns with some of the other actions, but there is no time to mention it all. I'll just finish by saying this issue is a high high priority for the city. It should be, in my view, and I'm not sure if it is. After 5 business days, it's not seen as high priority. We have to make sure that we provide safe infrastructure all around the city. You know, we talked about the safe routes to school before. Now this is all across the city about cyclists, to make sure that we can encourage people to choose to ride instead of going with the car, traveling the car wherever they go to. There will just not be enough room on the roads. We know that, for everyone to drive. This is already, you know, we have already traffic jams everywhere. We have to do this, and the only way is to provide safe infrastructure. Otherwise, we will just see the problems in 10 years' time, and we will have to have a new plan. And that might be too late. Will be some ratepayers that will leave the city. Some will hear the infrastructure here is not supportive. Other shires will provide better infrastructure, and we'll lose this. We'll have vacant. It's economic decision. We'll have vacant properties. We'll have vacant businesses. Towns says that not enough people want to visit because it's not safe to cycle. And we know that there are parking issues all around the town centres. Morley, Maylands, Bayswater. It's crisis. The only way is to get them to travel to the town centres to support businesses. Who wants to cycle to the Maylands town site? It's scary. Who wants to cycle? And Councillor Johnson actually cycle on a daily basis, and I know that, and I see her every time I drive here. I see her on the road, and I feel for her. I'm saying she's brave. She's brave. I'm driving with the car, and I see her with the
you've reached
helmet.
5 minutes.
Yes, I'll finish. People that doing it are brave in the city of Bayswater, and she's one of those brave people that we are talking about. They deserve safe infrastructure. I try to cycle when I can, but I will not say that I'm as a keen cyclist, but maybe one day. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on this? Councillor Bull.
Thank you. I am going to reluctantly support this recommendation. Again, I'm finding myself agreeing with Councillor Peterson-Pick, but voting the other way tonight. I too agree that the implementation plan needs to incorporate the extensive feedback that we've received, and there just wasn't enough time for the city to be allowed to be able to reflect that in a meaningful way. No doubt they worked their proverbials off, and and they do work really, really hard, but the reality is it was just 5 business days. Being able to demonstrate to the community that we're fair dinkum in terms of listening to them when we take the time and ask them to take the time to provide their extensive comments, usually through lived experience and anecdotes, is super important. And so I'm sure you can understand, councillors, how disappointed I am that we had that missed opportunity to do that. There is still opportunity, notwithstanding that the amendment wasn't adopted, to ensure that more of the feedback is incorporated into the implementation plan, and notwithstanding the council not supporting that amendment, I'm hopeful, and I know that staff are enthusiastic about doing all that they can to reflect feedback from the community. One of the recommendations of the plan is the establishment of a working group, and this will include representation from the community. So for those community members who have taken the time to provide their comments, who are passionate and informed about this issue, and have the time to be able to provide some of their personal time to a working group, I'd really encourage them to try to get along. Even if there's a group of people who can share it through proxies, that would be fantastic. As Councillor Peterson-Pick said, this is really important, and as I said, I will support this reluctantly this evening.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on this? Councillor Johnson.
Quick question.
Go ahead.
First, please. So just in terms of process, so we adopt the Bayswater Bike Plan today. Does the implementation plan come back to us, or does then that become operational?
I'll go to the CEO to respond.
Yeah, through the chair, the recommendation, councillors, is that you endorse the bike plan, and then the implementation plan will be included as part of the annual business planning process. So that's an input into that process. So with the timeframes and everything that are included within that plan, that then becomes an input, because you need to consider your plans in the context of all your other priorities that you would have on an annual basis. but it would form part of that process, so it would come back each year.
Thank you for that. I'll just speak and correct the record. Councillor Peterson-Pick says that I always ride my bike. It is not true. You will be aware that when all the roads are closed and there's mayhem on the roads, I don't ride my bike because even I don't feel safe. And I think this council represents, in this sense, our community. We have people who will not ride, who would if they knew where the signage was, who sometimes ride. And I think, you know, the community has people who ride for recreation, for training or sport, and for transport, and just for fun down the park. And I think we've heard that from our community, which is why I think the report feels a bit like itty. There's some very specific stuff, like a bike path here, or, you know, a bike lock there, and some of it is really broad, and I think that's what the intent of it is to make it easy for people who would otherwise ride to ride. There is a need for us to provide active transport and support active transport, because literally it is the quickest and easiest way to get around often. And where we have, for example, a train station with no parking, is a requirement that people are going to need to walk, ride, scoot and around our neighbourhoods. There's also a demand, and we already have a lot of cyclists everywhere I go. I see people riding there, and I know there's so many people that would ride if they could, if they knew the way, if there was an easy path, if it was well lit, if it was well shaded. And I think a lot of that feedback has been from the community process has been captured and is included in the plan. I mean, yes, of course, despite that my amendment was lost, I do think the implementation plan will capture a lot of that community feedback, like, for example, maps, like, for example, how we're going to implement the long-term cycle plan. So while it is not perfect, and we've heard from our community, and I want to thank the community members who've done us a tremendous amount of work and feedback, I will be supporting this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on this item? If not, I'll go to the mover to close. No? Okay. I will now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Maleka, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Eveson, Councillor Bull, Councillor Clark, Councillor Johnston and myself. All those against? Councillor Sutherland and Councillor Peterson-Pick. That is carried. Can we please ask the Deputy Mayor to come back? Deputy Mayor, both item 10.3.1 and 10.3.3, the officer's recommendation were carried. So we're now moving on to the next item, which is 10.4.1. Councillor Maleka, you've pulled this one. Are you moving the officer's recommendation?
I've actually, I have an alternate that I've already presented.
And it's in the run sheet.
Yeah, so basically it's just a deletion of 4I, condition 4I, and I think it was 7 from memory.
Yep.
Yep.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sutherland. Councillor Maleka.
Thank you. Look, we have policies to provide us with guidelines and recommended standards, but not every matter has a one-size-fits-all resolution. And that's what I heard last week at the deputation. And hence, we as council have discretion, and that comes into play. So this item, I believe, is one of those examples. So the deputation last week raised some safety concerns, and that kind of got me thinking, and I did a bit more investigation on that, around the increased vegetation that we're requesting from them. So we need to keep that in mind. It's an industrial site. So I was pretty concerned about that. And so, you know, the applicant has already agreed to 1 tree per 4 car bays. They've agreed to keep the verge trees. They've agreed to keep the rose bed. And so the plan identifies, which you'll see in the development plan, that it identifies that it will plant 20 trees. And we've since been provided information of what those species are. And it's come to our attention that they grow at 12 to 25 metres high, which is huge. And they have a canopy of 6 to 15 metres of a canopy spread. So in actual fact, I think that's an excellent canopy coverage, and that the 20 trees will suffice. And then with the other condition that relates to the public art recommendation. So we've read again in the report that the applicant is intending to retain the heritage building, and it came at a significantly higher cost to what it would have if they didn't. And so that's a cost to the owner of the property. So I note that the retention of the heritage component and its additions is more than half the cost of the total development. So that's quite a significant amount. This is an important factor, I believe, for us to consider. And so in this case, I think the retention of the heritage aspect is of greater value to the community and its surroundings. And that's been acknowledged as well by the applicant. And so that, I believe, is more of a value than a $10,000 public art piece that may, depending on what the design is, actually disrupt the frontage of the unique architecture of that building. So, you know, are we just enforcing that to tick a box to say, yes, it's public art? Public art isn't decoration. So it should be meaningful. So again, policies and guidelines are there as guidelines and standards. And as I mentioned multiple times before, where feasible, I think we should address them as a case-by-case basis. And here is one of them. It's not a one-size-fits-all. We need to think about the purpose of the actual development.
Thank you. Councillor Sutherland.
I'm happy to support the alternative motion. The applicant, I feel, has worked hard with the officers to make this a good addition to the streetscape and the local area. The facade did cost a lot of money, and that was explained clearly last week. And I do think the heritage value of that facade does make up for the art contribution, because I know, you know, I go down that street and I really like that heritage, that facade, and it's something that I look at. So I think that we should cut them slack and look at that. These developments don't come cheap. They have had to do a lot of work to keep the council happy, and I think that we should meet them halfway. And I'm also happy with the changes in the trees as well. It is an industrial site, and we do have to be sensible here. So I think it's a welcome addition to the local area, and I'm happy they're on board, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Clark, are you speaking against?
I wanted to speak against and foreshadow the officer's recommendation, please.
Go ahead.
I can't agree to these two amendments. First of all, I mean, we've worked so hard over years and years and years building up policies around trees and heritage. And then it's this death by 1,000 cuts every time a development comes before us. Oh, the poor developer, the poor developer. We need to cut them some slack. I mean, when you do this scale of development, people are making money out of this, right? And the requirements that are in section 4I and J, which is a minimum of 30 standard trees, and trees in relation to the car parking bays, and then some public art, which is 1%. 1% of the construction costs. You know, it is small change in that sort of context. The public art is about the amenity for the public, and this area is is zoned industrially, and you drive along this segment regularly. I drive along it regularly. On the other side is residential. And I've received representations from at least one resident who acknowledges that disconnect, that this isn't just an industrialist site out of the middle of nowhere. There are a whole heap of people who live on the other side of this street and is residential. So the trees will make a difference to them. The public art will make a difference to them. So for us just to get rid of it, which I fear we may do tonight, goes against all of that work and all of the policies that have been built up in this council for years and years and years. So I really urge councillors to think about this and have these requirements in place. They're not onerous. They're really not. It's a beautiful building. This development actually came before us years and years ago, as is in the papers, with no heritage protection, and then was withdrawn at the 11th hour, probably because most people on council thought we should probably maintain some heritage in the city. And so I just think it's really important that we do these. These come to us as standard conditions because they're standard. Because this is what the policies that are in place. And if people don't agree with those policies, well, rip the policies up then. Go to the next election in October and rip the policies up and see if the community's with you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be speaking in favour. I would ordinarily agree with Councillor Clark in terms of having the policies, etc. I think that this application probably does highlight, pardon me, the challenges of having a standard policy that isn't flexible, because as Councillor Clark said, if people are making money, it's a business. I would hope a business would make money, but they won't be able to make money if they're unable to have the truck movements on their property and trees that are just put willy-nilly, as opposed to what's been proposed in the plan, will impede access. And I can tell you that I had a truck delivery just the other week, and it took out a big branch of one of my trees because of access through from the tree having a branch in the way of where the truck needed to go. There's 20 trees that do get to up to 20 or 25 metres tall. It is a significant canopy, and I do think that should be a consideration. The percent for art one, I'm a little bit unsure about that one, because heritage is very different to the percent for art. I am very, very happy that that building is being retained. It is a beautiful example of a 1930s building, respectful curves, beautiful, absolutely beautifully done. So I am happy that is being retained. But I do think that there needs to be some sort of consideration of truck movements on the property, because it is at the industrial area, and if they're not able to run their business because they're not able to have trucks enter and have free movement in the site, then that is an impact.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson-Pick.
Yeah, I just have a question, if I can ask probably to the officers. So the proposal on the table is to remove the condition with regards to the trees, and the proposal is to remove it completely, not to change the number. So my question is whether by removing it there is a risk that they might not even plant the 20 standard trees that they said that they will plant, because we will not have any condition now with regard to the trees.
Thank you. I'll go to the officer to respond, or the director to respond, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Through the chair. The plans actually show 20 trees, and the plans will form part of the planning approval. So effectively, if council approves this, it approves the plans, which includes 20 trees. Okay. So there's no need to actually specify 20 trees because it's shown on the plans.
Thank you. Can I make a few comments?
Go ahead.
Look, I'm torn on this. I probably leaning to support this. I am less concerned about the art issue, because we are applying it for the vast majority of developments. And I am, as you know, I am very keen on protection of heritage, and I think this is something that can be an advantage for those property owners that go and make the effort and put money to keep the heritage for the benefit of the wider community. And they have done that. It came to a council meeting and they pulled it back to do the work, to put the money to actually keep it. So for me, this is a massive step that they did, and I would like to thank them for that, because we've seen so many other property owners that said, no, we are not going to do that. We are going to demolish it, and we are going to go to the JDEP, and they're going to support it. So I commend them for doing that. And if it means that we need to remove one condition, that is fine. About the trees, I was a bit more kind of torn, but I'm leaning to support this, and especially I had now that they will still commit to do the 20 standard trees, so that should be fine, I think, at this stage. And again, I think the heritage component for me fixed those things because of the investment and what they have agreed to do.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Bull.
Thanks. I won't be supporting this with the amendments. Firstly, the requirement for 30 trees is a variation to the minimum requirements in terms of the number of standard trees. And to listen to people talk about how it's industrial areas, so it's not as important, really concerns me. If you have a look at overhead photos of our district, the greyest and whitest areas are the industrial areas, and that is because there is already a significant shortage in the number of trees in that area, in those areas. And so if we have a shortage of the numbers of trees in those areas, then that increases the heat island effect. So every time we have an opportunity to be able to get more trees into these kinds of areas, the better. Councillor Clark makes a really good point. This is not just deep industrial area. This is actually on the border opposite homes. And if you have a look at the photo, the overhead photo here, you can actually see how close people are living to the industrial area. So when we're talking heat island effect, we're talking impacting people who live right there. You can have a look. There's houses that, you know, you can see on that side as well, there's a lack of trees. So every opportunity that we as a council have to get trees into these kinds of areas, the more we should be encouraging that. In terms of the percent for public art, I'm disappointed that Councillor Maleka, who holds herself out as a supporter of art, would seek to have a standard condition of this nature be removed. I agree with Councillor Maleka when she talks publicly about the importance of art. I'm very supportive of it, and I know how supportive Councillor Maleka is of places like Ellis House in particular. She has a track record of supporting art in our community, and it is disappointing that she would seek to remove this kind of amendment, given how passionate she is about art. If the developer has concerns that art is not going to add to the amenity of this area, then actually we have a cash in lieu program, which means that the money that would have otherwise been spent on public art on this site can be used elsewhere nearby to support the amenity of the area. The point about public art in these policies is to contribute to the streetscape and to the built form public realm. That is what it's for. As a consequence, I won't be supporting this. I hope council doesn't support this, and then we'll deal with a foreshadowed motion, which I will happily support.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak?
Yeah, I wasn't
Councillor
going to.
Eason.
Yes, please. Look, I'm really supportive of this practical outcome for both the applicant and our community, and thank you to Councillor Maleka for raising this alternative. This revised proposal is far better than previous submissions for the site, and I totally agree with the provision of 20 more suitable trees that have been selected specifically for the canopy that they will provide. These trees will be a bigger canopy and a better outcome than 30 smaller trees, which the applicant could have easily chosen and would have been compliant. So to me, this proposal is, and this alternative are a greater example of this current council working constructively with applicants to deliver high quality developments in our district. Let's get it underway.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on this? Councillor
Actually, I
Clark.
just had a question. In terms of the trees that are part of the DA, would there then be checks after the build is done to check that that's been compliant? As per?
I'll go to the director to respond.
Through the chair, there will be a check because you need to get a certificate of compliance, and they'll check against, in terms of occupy the building, and there'll be check against the planning approval and the building permit.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Palmer.
Thank you. Just very briefly, I also support what Councillor Ellie Pick said, which is the previous concerns with the heritage and how they have actually promoted that side. Well, we can't have everything our own way, and we do need to be flexible on some issues. I like that street. It's got a nice, proud way of driving down and seeing what there is in our good businesses, smart businesses, and they've kept it very smart outlook from there. It's a really lovely Art Deco or Art Nouveau, whichever. And I think that's worthy of protection, and that's what they've done to great cost, 6 figures. So let's be a little bit flexible here and understanding. So I'll support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone, anyone else wish to? I think everyone's spoken. I'll just say a few comments. I'll just want to touch on the fact that I'm really proud of the City of Bayswater's industrial area. I'm proud that we're an inner city district and we have a really thriving industrial area. And, you know, I support our businesses there. And I'll just make the comment that we do need to understand that industrial areas have different land uses that aren't always compatible with a policy that applies to every other land use in the City of Bayswater. And we have to understand that. We have to understand that there are different land uses, different risks, different safety concerns when we're talking about industrial sites compared to residential or commercial. And if we want to keep our industrial areas thriving and we want to support those businesses that provide lots of local jobs and, you know, are leaders in their area, there's manufacturing. You know, this is a manufacturing business for these type of truck equipment that need space to be able to manoeuvre safely for their staff. If we support that and we want to see this type of economic growth and jobs provided for our residents, we need to be flexible. And I think that the proposal that they've actually put forward it goes above and beyond, you know, and it's taken them 18 months to come back to council with a proposal that is a really you know, much improved. So I will be supporting this and I'll go to Councillor Maleka to close.
Thank you. I would like to just comment on my being a supporter of the arts. Thank you for highlighting that, Councillor Ball. And yes, I've been a visual arts educator for over 30 years and a huge supporter of art as an art form and not art for art's sake. So I feel that this 1% that the applicant is asked to have to contribute to a piece of art has really fallen into the 1 million plus because they spent so much on the heritage value of the development. So they probably wouldn't have even had to produce a piece of art, a public art piece, if they didn't go down that path. So this is really quite tokenistic. A 10,000 piece value for a piece of public art, in my opinion, from my expert opinion, is really just going to be tokenistic because engaging an artist to produce a piece for that price isn't really much as we would like it to be to add value to the environmental and community component of what art should be about.
Thank you. I'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Maleka, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Eason, Councillor Sutherland, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Peterson-Pick and myself. All those against? Councillor Bull, Councillor Clark and Councillor Johnson. That is carried. Okay. So we'll now move on to item 10.4.2. Deputy Mayor, you have pulled this and you've provided an alternative motion.
Yes, I'll read it out. The Council, 1, notes the submissions received during the community engagement process on the proposed naming of laneway within the street block bordered by Crawford Road, Stewart Street, York Street and Alma Street, Maylands. 2, defers consideration on this laneway naming matter until A, the City undertakes a community engagement process where the public is invited to submit name options for future naming of parks, reserves, streets, rights of way, infrastructure and the like across the city. And B, the City presents a report to Council to consider the outcome of the community engagement process and endorsement of a name for this laneway and appropriate names for other future naming purposes to be referred to Landgate for approval.
Do I have a seconder? I'll second it.
Thank you. Look, I'll be brief on this one. We've all read the engagement. We've all read the engagement report. We've all read the officer's report here. One thing that was made clear in the briefings last week is that the 2 names that were proposed for this particular laneway are the last 2 names on our list. So I think it's prudent to not only respond to the community feedback, but to also be proactive with updating that list in general in consultation with the community, getting it ticked off by Landgate and then bringing it back so that will address both a future name for this laneway, as well as having that database there of pre-approved names that can be used relevant to each area that we have in the City of Bayswater.
Thank you. I just want to thank the Deputy Mayor for bringing this forward. I also want to thank the community members who provided their feedback on this issue. I totally agree with the majority of the feedback that we had, that we need to relook at this, that the policy is dated, and do some advocacy with Landgate to, be reflective of what the community expects in 2023. So I'm very happy to support this. Would anyone like to speak against? Councillor Sutherland. Councillor Sutherland?
Yeah, look, everybody's going to have a different opinion on this. I think office has got more things to do than do work, go to consultation on this. I like the name Ginger Lane, real Australian, and I believe it's an old war veteran's name. There's nobody in my mind more deserving than those people.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson, you had a question.
Thank you. Yeah, I do have a question. So we heard at the agenda briefing that the reason this came to us because a resident had had difficulty getting emergency services. I'm very supportive of the intention of what's on the table, but just wondering if there's any way that we can assist that or support that, and if that needs to be included in any resolution we make tonight.
I'll go to the Director to respond.
Through the Chair, we did look at it. We did look at other local governments. There's no clear indication how to address it, because even with the right-of-way or the laneway being named, because of the width of it, it's not a dedicated road, so you won't have street numbers. So in terms of emergency vehicles, the person who's phoning should need to say there's access through the laneway at the back of the at so-so address at the property.
Councillor Peterson-Pick.
Yes, thank you. Look, I'm leaning to support this. I'd like to thank, first of all the community members that contacted me with their concerns about this issue. I share their concerns. I think the process should have been different, and we should have a more diverse list of names. I will support this, but I do have some concerns that I would like to put on the record. First of all, as was mentioned, the request to put a name to that right-of-way is, first of all, because of emergency services access, and I'm concerned about this process. That will be a very long process to engage with the whole city, and I think it should have been separate to the mission now to name that specific right-of-way. We're talking about safety, emergency, health. I would have preferred to have specific community engagement just with that area about the names for that right-of-way. Names that we can actually probably use for other streets or parks, but targeted consultation instead of full-on consultation, because I do not know when that will end, so I'm concerned a bit about that. I also think that I'm not sure about the results, because how many people will really engage with another consultation process? We talked about the fatigue around consultation. We're consulting them about their general ideas about names, when there are not specific proposals anywhere around them. And I think people would have been more engaged with research and coming up with names if it was about specific streets or parks around them. So I would like to hope that we'll get many, many, many names and we can use them. If not, I think that kind of might be not the best process to take. I think maybe targeted consultation would have maybe resulted in a better way. But we can try that if this is what's on the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the street naming is highly important. It's going to be there forever. It's not just, and I love the name Ginger as well, but I do agree with this amendment, and I feel it needs to be broader, and I'm hoping that in the future We are looking for plans for Aboriginal dual naming, for place names in the history of Maylands especially. So there's a lot to consult in that, and the broad community consultation should take that into fact. And we should start from day one. If we're having a consultation on naming, and I know it's going to come up in our future plans and strategies, but if we're having one here now, then that should also be incorporated. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this item? If not, I'll go the mover to close.
Thank you. Councillor Palmer and Councillor Sutherland, look, I agree. I personally like ginger as well. But, in addressing what Councillor Sutherland has said for extra work for the officers, I actually don't see it as extra work for the officers because they'll have to provide a list to Landgate for pre-approval anyway as part of the city standard practice. And yeah, the laneway is a concern for the resident who did request it for their health reasons. But however, what I would say to that is I'd wager a guess that it's probably an issue across the city. Just other people haven't realised that they could request to the city to have a laneway named to address those issues. So this could potentially be an issue for other households. We're just not aware of it. The intent behind a community consultation for the area would obviously be suburb-based. So, you'd have a list of names for Narrandera, you'd have a list of names for Maylands, Bedford, Bayswater, Morley, etc. I probably wouldn't, that would be done, I would imagine, as a section-based. You wouldn't put it out to the whole city for, a name that's significant to Narrandera to be applied to Maylands, etc. So I would hope councillors would support this. It addresses two things: one, the naming of both this laneway, as well as building up that database of names contributed by the community so we can see what the community actually wants. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Maleka, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Eason, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Peterson-Pitt, Councillor Bull, Councillor Clark, Councillor Johnson and myself. All those against? Councillor Sutherland. That is carried. Okay, we're now on to item... Okay, so that concludes the items subject to deputations, and we'll now move to the remaining items that have been withdrawn by councillors. The first one we need to pull is 10.2.1 because Councillor Clark has impartiality interest. Do I have anyone who'd like to move this item? Councillor Johnson, do I have a seconder? 10.2.1, financial report for the period ended 30th of April 2023. Yeah. So Councillor Johnson's moved it. Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor. Councillor Johnson, do you wish to speak to it? Deputy Mayor. Anyone wish to speak on this item? If not, I'll put it straight to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. The next item is 10.2.3, list of payments for the month of April 2023. Would someone like to move this?
Sorry, Mayor, can I just clarify? In my printed copy, it says 10.2.4. Is it 10.2.3 for everyone else?
I'll just double check. Give me one moment.
Am I going crazy? Yeah.
I see why you weren't sure.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't sure about the numbering all the way through.
So on the contents page, I believe it's wrong.
No worries.
But in the actual agenda, it should be correct.
All right, that's fine. On your disclosures, I've put it down as 3. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Okay. So it's 10.2.3, list of payments for the month of April 2023. Can I have a mover? Councillor Palmer, seconded Deputy Mayor. Anyone wish to speak? I'll put that straight to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. The next item is 10.3.2, Drake Street Bike Path. Councillor Clark, you've got a proximity. Councillor Bull, you pulled this one. Are you moving the officer's recommendation? Yes. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Johnson, Councillor Bull.
Thank you, and it's great to see that this has reached this point. The Drake Street bike path design comprises two elements. One element coming from the Bayswater train station up to Morley, and the second element joining the safe active streets on the other side of Coode Street. It's going to be a really important connection between Bayswater and Morley and the wider suburbs. The only point that I'd make is that the plan seeks to join Morley actually when Drake Street hits up Broome to where the lights are, the control crossing, or where the crosswalk person is when school's on. I know some people were concerned that the plan didn't include a larger island directly across Broome Avenue to join towards the high school, John Forrest. Perhaps that's something that could be looked at in the future if it is possible, but I encourage council to support what's on the table.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Likewise. It's a big spend for us and finally completes, well, it actually doesn't complete. Anyway, finally makes progress towards that link between Bayswater Town Centre and Morley Town Centre, unfortunately stopping at Broome Avenue. And what did I receive in an email? Without a safe, and you probably all councillors have also received multiple comments on this, without a safe way to cross Beaufort Street, the Drake Street bike path is frankly pretty useless. And it's true. I mean, it's going to be great, but it's it comes out just here. It is crazy busy. You all have turned in here at this intersection a million times. It's actually really difficult. And I'm actually wondering if it's worth at this point proposing an amendment to explore or advocate for that in the next phase of the round. Could I propose an amendment, please?
Have you got the wording?
Yeah, I'll make one up for you right now. So, second limb to say, is it the council? For the CEO to explore a safe crossing at Broome Avenue.
Is that the correct wording, councillor?
Thank you. Perhaps with the addition as part of the Bayswater bike plan. Oh, sorry, as the Drake Street bike plan. I don't think that will work.
Councillor Bull, do you accept that? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone wish to speak against this? Anyone for? If not, I'm a bit, I'm not sure if I'm going to support this. I don't know what the implications of Limb 2 are. I'd really encourage councillors, if you have amendments to make, please submit them in advance because I haven't had time to consider Limb 2 and what the implications are for the city and what exploring means. And so now I don't know if I'll support this. I'll go to the mover to close. Oh, sorry, Councillor Peterson-Pitt. Yeah.
Just because of his voices against, I probably should support this and the amendment. Look, the implications of Limb 2 are nothing. It's just exploration of safe crossings. We're doing it anyway, all around, safe routes to school, the bike plan, all of it, everything. So it's just exploration. So the implications, Madam Mayor, are none. And more to the context, we actually should have a safe crossing at Broome Avenue. The same thing crossed my mind when I saw the maps. It just ends there and there is nothing else. I was hoping that, once we have that, we can actually deal with this issue, but I'm very happy that both the move and second are actually trying to address it right now. Yeah, look, it's a good plan. This is what we were talking. Council just approved the bike plan. This is This is the implementation of what we're talking about. And this is what requires reconfiguration of roads to make sure that cyclists are safe and away from busy roads. So this is exactly what we should achieve. Obviously, there are, you know, implications to some, you know, household. It's not easy to fit those kind of things, and I think the city did marvelous job. You know, it is very hard to come up with those plans in those areas, but they did it, and I think we have to support this.
Thank you. I have a question to the CEO. Mr. CEO, can you please advise when when council asks you to do something, are there implications? Are there resources being used? Are there things that need to be done, or is there zero implications to being instructed to do something?
Yeah, through the chair, there would be implications to explore that, and that would be in the terms of staff time within the responsible area of works and infrastructure to consider that.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? If not, I'll go the mover to close. I'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Can we please get Councillor Clark back in the room? Councillor Clark, that item was adopted with an additional limb. So the next item that's been pulled is 10.4.3, proposed payment in lieu of parking plan. Councillor Peterson-Pick, are you moving the officer's recommendation? Oh, you're just voting against. Do I have someone to move this item? Deputy Mayor, do I have a seconder? Councillor Eveson, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Eveson.
Probably just that we need this because it comes up constantly with development applications. So we do need to have this plan.
Thank you. Anyone speaking against? Councillor Peterson-Pick.
Thank you. Yes, I have some concerns with this. Some already mentioned previously before it went to community consultation. Some are new because things have been added and proposed now. For example, the reduction in cash in lieu for parking from $10,000 to $3,000 per car parking bay. I already received some concerns from businesses who are aware of it. I think most businesses and residents are not aware of this change that suddenly appeared here. I do not understand the rationale. If we are discounting parking bays, we should definitely receive the full amount as we used to. Some developers already provided the full amount. So I think it's also fair that we will continue to do this. As one property owner told me, I contributed, you know, the full amount. Why others will get the discount suddenly? What's the basis for that? I am not sure. It's not clear to me. We will need the money. We will need the money to support everything that we approve here at this council, the bike lane, all those, you know, pedestrian, you know, initiatives, all those stuff that we want to promote in town centers. We will need to do this. If they cannot provide sufficient parking bays as part of the development and cash in lieu is appropriate, they should provide the full amount. And this is a massive discount for developers. I do not understand where it came from and what's the basis. It's one thing to support developments. It's a different thing to actually reduce the amount of money that we get for compensation, because the parking, no matter what, we need to support cycling. We need to support pedestrians, and I advocate for this, but parking is also needed to some level in all town centers. This, if developments are getting a discount with the parking of bays, they should contribute. This is very concerning. There are also some actions in this plan that I spoke about. For example, the action to look into constructing a two-story car park behind the rise that will encroach into the public open space, which is the only public open space in the Maylands Town Centre. I cannot support something like this. I cannot support something like this. I do not know any resident will support removing all the trees there, the shading, the playground. It's absolutely ridiculous, I must say. And look, it was consulted. Who will understand? Who will understand what's happening here? if we will consult and tell people we are going to remove the trees, we're going to have a 2-story car park behind the rise for more cars while we're removing the cash in lieu, we'll see how many residents will support that. I also spoke about the fact that we need to prioritize one of the actions there to look into purchasing lots at the Maylands Town Centre to make sure that we have sufficient parking. Most of the parking, the public parking currently in the Maylands Town Centre are on private property. Once those lots are going to be developed, we will have a crisis. We'll have a crisis in all town centres. I'm just focusing my comments only on that town centre, which I'm very familiar with. We will have a crisis, and we should look into this. It was already discussed a couple of years ago at the Maylands Ratepayers and Residents Association about this specific issue, the need for council to look quickly into purchasing some of the lots. This is now in this plan, the last action, and only if all the other actions are already implemented or looked at. No, it should be one of the first ones. We should look into this to reserve that land for development, which will accommodate some parking, public parking, because we will need some parking. Ask any business owner in any town centre, if there is not enough parking, people will not come. We cannot just count on those who will walk and those who will cycle and those who will take the train. This is not possible to have a good town centre, active one. People will drive. We need to have sufficient number, not full number. We need to encourage people to use public transport, etc. But we need to have a minimal number. We will have a crisis. So I cannot support this. We have quite a lot of concerns there. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a question to the director. Councillor Peterson-Pick said he doesn't know where this came from in terms of the reduction in the cash in lieu. Can you please explain where this came from?
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. We did try to explain that in the background section of the report, but basically in June 2021, the department has required that all local government, if they want cash in lieu for car parking, needs to put a cash in lieu parking plan, which this plan tries to do and reflects existing adopted management plans. The amount for cash in lieu was government gazetted in 2021, and the amount that it was in the government gazette is $3,000. So the city, like other local governments, if they want cash in lieu and have a parking plan, they can't ask for anything more than $3,000.
So just to be clear, it's not up to the discretion of the local council to keep it at $10,000.
That's correct.
Thank you. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am concerned because we've got a deadline of June 2023 in order to comply. In the event documents are not updated, the city will no longer be able to collect payment in lieu of parking for car parking shortfalls until updated documents are finalised. So we're caught between a devil and a hard place. And the actual, I agree with Councillor Ellie Pick, from $3,000 where they've calculated 200 by 15 square metres. And it sort of goes on from there, but we're really stuck in a hard place on this one. I don't know which way to go. And I'm wondering if the director could speak a little bit more on this, on exactly where we should be going. I know it says approves, but we don't really approve. We're obligated, more sounds like it.
I'll go to the director to respond.
Yeah, thank you. The only discretion that the city has is what's the value. Basically, I'll go back one square. The $10,000 that was applied previously was based on land value plus construction costs of the parking bay and the manoeuvring space. Then there was a discount on that. It was about 25% of the actual cost. So that was done. That was for so many years. Basically, what the Government Gazette is saying, it's the construction costs and landscaping costs of the parking bay plus manoeuvring space, and then reduced by another 50%. And we said it's $200 per square metre. That's how the $3,000 is applied. It is required that we have a parking plan in place in order to continue to apply any conditions requiring cash in for car parking from the 1st of July. If we don't, we're not in a position to actually ask for cash in for car parking, if there's a short-form parking for development applications.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson-Pick, do you have a question?
Just a few follow-up questions, yes, please. So just to make sure that I understand it and we all understand it. So the director is saying that there is no discretion and the number $3,000 is provided in a state government document?
Through the chair, the Government Gazette basically says the infrastructure costs the cash in lieu is based on infrastructure costs per square metre times 15 square metres times parking space shortfall. So the only discretion the city has is what is the infrastructure costs, and there's the clarification that's construction and landscaping of that parking bay manoeuvring space up to 15 square metres.
So the infrastructure costs could have been changed by the city?
It is what.
Yeah?
It's got to be validated that it
But
is
it
more
could have
than-
been revised.
It's
and-
not land cost, it's a construction cost, but it is discretionary in the city, and we've used that based on previous experience of construction of car parking bays elsewhere.
And just a follow-up question, has the city made a comment when that change was made by the state government?
Through the chair, I thought we did, it looks like we did address that under the background section of this report.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Councillor Clark.
Just very briefly, I think part of what we need to do as a council going forward, and Councillor Peterson-Pick touched upon this, is what are we doing in our town centres as we get greater infill and density and greater development? And if there's no control by the city over where the parking goes, we are going to find that we have no parking at all. Now, I think Councillor Johnson would love that and force everyone onto bicycles, but we're going to need some parking. And so I reiterate again, there is a block of land that the city owns next to where the lacrosse club is that I think the city should look at as by way of parking as Bayswater develops, because I can't see where else in the Bayswater Town Centre people are going to be able to park and get on the train and go out to the airport, up to Ellenbrook and into the CBD. But that's my view.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? If not, I'll go the mover to close.
Just have a question, if I may.
Go ahead.
Thanks. My question is, if council doesn't endorse this plan, will that mean that the city is unable to seek any cash in lieu payments?
I'll go to the director to respond.
Through the chair, that's the city's understanding, officer's understanding of the legislation, the regulations.
Do you wish to speak? I'll go to the mover to close.
Thank you. Look, as Councillor Peterson's picked, I agree. I'm not happy with the reduction either. The simple fact is that whether I like it or not is irrelevant. The DPLH has given us the calculation and we have to use it, and we have to update the plans and have it in effect by June if we want to continue to collect anything on parking in lieu. The infrastructure cost, we can't...
Sorry, a point of order has been called. Councillor Bull?
Sorry, Councillor. Councillor Eveson is making these kind of affirmative noises as Councillor Earhart is speaking, and it's really off-putting.
What's the point of order?
The point of order is that it's really annoying and I can't concentrate.
I don't know if that's a point of order. I'll just seek some advice. Councillor Eveson, I don't think it's a specific point of order, but Councillor Eveson, if you're doing that, please cease to do that. Please continue, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. The infrastructure cost, it's not something that we can just make up and put in there to make up the shortfall to get it back up to 10,000. That's not legit. We can't do that. 18 submissions, 8 objections. You know, it's not ideal for the reduction, but we are where we are and we need to adopt it.
Thank you. I'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Maleka, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Eason, Councillor Sutherland, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull, Councillor Clark, Councillor Johnson and myself. All those against is Councillor Peterson-Pick. That is carried. The next item that was pulled, 10.4.4, Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage car parking requirements for non-residential land uses in Perth and Peel. This was pulled by Councillor Peterson-Pick, I'm assuming, to vote against. Yep, so do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor, do I have a seconder? Councillor Eveson, Deputy Mayor.
I'll reserve it for right to reply.
Councillor Eveson. Councillor Peterson-Pick, you wish to ask a question?
Yes, just to make sure that I understand it. The proposed reductions in this item, are they mandatory or are they up to the discretion of the city?
I'll go to the director to respond.
Through the chair, our understanding from the department, it's a guidance, and they're asking comments on what they're proposing as the guidance for local government. We're not sure whether it will be regulations or requirements, but what's been advised is that it's a guidance at this stage. And seeking comments on the proposed guidance.
Yeah, thank you. Look, page 76 at the bottom talks about some of the proposed reductions to car parking. Again, I won't reiterate what I said before at the previous item about the need still to maintain a minimal parking base for each town centre. This is a massive topic. I hope all councillors understand the implications. Reductions for childcare premises by 56%, but for restaurants, lunch bars, etc., 25% reductions. Hotels, reduction of 60% of parking bays. Those are not 5% or 2%, those are massive reductions. It will impact all town centres in the city of Bayswater. I cannot support that. We should encourage pedestrians, cyclists, I mentioned it, but we should also provide minimal parking bays for the future.
Thank you. Anyone?
Question,
yes.
Can I just ask through the chair to the relevant director, are these percentage discounts in addition to the discounts that are already afforded in, say, Maylands Activity Zone, where I believe it's 50% reduction within 200 metres of a train station, etc., or are these non-combative with our current policies?
Through the chair, my understanding, just trying to recall, it's in regards to the discounted, as per the policy allows discount in town centres, so it's the percentages in relation to that discounted.
So it supports what we currently have in place. It's not in addition, so you don't get 50% under our thing and then plus another 20% underneath this, so a total of 70%.
Through the chair, it's a comparison of what you would have required, what a development would have required applying the discount that we've got in our policies, and the percentage relates to what the further reduction or further increase or further reduction is as compared to that, relative to that proposed in the guidance.
Anyone wish to speak on this item? Councillor Clark.
Just very briefly, on my page 413, I'm not sure if that's the same as the online version, there's reference to the city's position around reduction of parking around childcare centres, which I agree with. I think it's completely unrealistic to think that everyone who's dropping off multiple children and rushing to work is going to necessarily be able to not do that without adequate parking. So I think that's a good position to have.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? If not, I'll go the mover to close. No, I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Maleka, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Eveson, Councillor Sutherland, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull, Councillor Clark, Councillor Johnson and myself. All those against, Councillor Peterson-Pick. Okay, so the next item is 10.4.6, proposed change of day of annual Australia Day Citizenship Ceremony and Awards. Deputy Mayor, you have pulled this and you have provided an alternative motion.
Yes, I'll just read that out loud. So that one, council adopts for public advertising the proposed day to hold the annual Australia Day Citizenship Ceremony and Awards to be within 3 days following the Australia Day public holiday. And 2, the proposed change of day to hold the annual Australia Day Citizenship Ceremony and Awards is referred to Council for further consideration following public advertising.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Palmer, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. So what I've done there is I've removed from the officer's recommendation the community barbecue breakfast portion of that. My view is that this is something that could be determined separately because, you know, if for instance the community come back and they do want 3 days within 3 days after Australia Day, I'm just thinking of it pragmatically in terms of say we do the Australia Day is on a Sunday and we do the event on a Monday and we do the event on a Wednesday. It basically will just turn into a community barbecue for those receiving citizenship, and it may not be as many people as it usually does because it's on a public holiday. As we know, the daytime ones don't usually get as many attendees as the evening ones. And it's just the practicality around it would just be a barbecue on a Wednesday when everyone's at work, so it wouldn't actually be a community barbecue, it'd just be a citizenship barbecue. So I think the two need to be decoupled if we are going forward into the future, and if it does get endorsed by the community to hold it on a day other than what is known as Australia Day, and we can have that discussion separately through events.
Thank you. Councillor Palmer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I think this is going to a 30-day consultation, so it's not being decided tonight. But I do agree that this consultation amendment is important. It gives more flexibility, common sense with regard to a Wednesday, which may be a day that most people are working. So I think we have to sort of broaden that. And I really feel that though no decisions have been made within the Reconciliation Action Committee, they do respect what we have put here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson-Pick, you speaking?
Just a question, perhaps to the mover, because she mentioned the removal of the event as a difference to what the officers recommended, but it's also, it seems to me that the whole public consultation is being removed. So it says adopting it for public advertising, and the original one was going for community consultation. So could we get clarification about this change, because it was not mentioned?
Okay, I'll just see if the mover wishes to respond.
No, well, my intent is that it still goes for community consultation. The only thing that has been removed from the officer's recommendation was a community barbecue and community barbecue breakfast from both limbs. That's the only change.
I'll just go to the director to clarify.
Through the chair, yeah, Councillor Earhart is correct. In the preamble of point 1, it says council adopts for public advertising, and then it goes on. Basically, we're only advertising the day, the proposed day of change for the Australia Day ceremony and the awards, not the barbecue event. So it's still, as I said, it still says public advertising. I hope that clarifies the situation.
So just to clarify, public advertising means consultation.
Correct, the 30 days public
Thank you.
consultation.
Okay. Councillor Peterson-Pick, did you wish to speak? Okay. Anyone else wish to speak on this? Councillor Ball?
Yeah, firstly, just a query on the first limb. The mover and seconder may want to amend it. I'm just having a read of the background material in the officer's report. It says that the quote from the Australian government's announcement says that councils will now be able to hold the citizenship ceremony on January 26 or on the 3 days before or after. And so I'm wondering whether actually the mover and seconder want to just tighten up the language to say 3 days following Australia Day, because we're Australia. If Australia Day is on the weekend, then yeah.
Sorry, if I may, thank you, Councillor Ball, for bringing that to attention. So to the minute taker, the amendment would be to be within the 3 days following, strike out the and Australia Day, and then strike out public holiday on limb 1. So that would then read, 1, council adopts for public advertising the proposed day to hold the annual Australia Day citizenship ceremony and awards to be within the 3 days following Australia Day.
Can I just check that the seconder agrees with that? Okay, so that forms part of the substantive motion now. Did you wish to speak to it, Councillor Ball?
I have a question.
Okay, you have a question?
Just a question.
Councillor Peterson-Pick.
So the motion talks about within 3 days following. Understood from the report that we have the ability to have those ceremonies also 3 days before or after. So my question is why we are just looking at following 3 days and not also the ability to go before.
I'm pretty sure the report explains that was the recommendation from the Reconciliation Advisory Committee, that it was insensitive to hold a celebration prior, that they preferred to have it after.
Can we get some clarification better on this?
Okay, I'll go to the director.
The report actually did not say why it was insensitive.
Through the chair, the mayor is correct in that it was the community members and the Reconciliation Action Committee, Advisory Committee basically said as late as possible, and 3 days is what as late as possible we could do, so that it allows a healing process. And maybe the manager can explain that a bit better than I can, the reason for it. But basically, they prefer to have it 3 days or as long as possible, which is what we can allow is 3 days after Australia Day, to allow reflection of the matters. But I'm sure the manager will be able to explain a bit more eloquently than I can.
If the manager could come to the
Thank you.
microphone.
Through the chair, the conversation from the community members was that they celebrate after their sorry day, was their wording, and that they regard leading up to the day as a sad period of time. But then after Australia Day, they celebrate the new. That was their explanation at the committee, although the committee didn't make a recommendation at the meeting.
Okay.
We collated that information from them for the report.
Thank you.
Councillor Bull.
Thank you. I think that we should show leadership as a council and resolve to hold the annual Australia Day citizenship ceremony and awards within 3 days following Australia Day tonight. I had the privilege of I have the privilege of being a member of the Reconciliation Advisory Committee, and I attended that meeting where the discussion was held, and the depth of feeling was actually very moving, very, it helped me learn more about actually how difficult this period, this time of the year is for many Aboriginal people, and us being given the opportunity now by the federal government to be able to shift what I actually refer to as our January citizenship ceremony to a date beyond the 26th of January tonight, I think would be a really fantastic result for our community. This motion doesn't seek to change Australia Day, and as I've said publicly, Australia Day means many things to many people. Sometimes for many people, it's a day of celebration. Sometimes for people, it's a day of catching up with friends. For other people, it is very hard, hurtful, triggering. And so if we as a council tonight can resolve to shift our January citizenship ceremony to within 3 days after Australia Day, to within 3 days after the 26th of January today, then I believe we really have done our job as a council. That is not to say that other people have a view, and it's not to say that other people shouldn't have a view. Absolutely they should. But of the 600 odd people who become citizens in the city of Bayswater each year, only 1/10 have the privilege of doing that on Australia Day. They have the privilege of doing that in our January ceremony. So while I acknowledge people's concerns in the community about what it means to them to move our January ceremony beyond Australia Day, what I learnt in that discussion at that Reconciliation Advisory Committee was that it is deeply hurtful to do this to many, many Aboriginal people. And so on that basis, I would like to propose a foreshadowed motion that I have drafted just now, the essence of which, sorry, Mayor, I heard you sigh then.
Yes,
This is super.
I did.
But the nature of my work, daytime work, is sometimes I can't meet that time frame. The essence of which would be that council resolves to hold the annual Australia Day citizenship ceremony and awards within 3 days following Australia Day. On this basis, I won't support this, and I will foreshadow that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll assume that tone is frustration rather than turning to me.
It's not
directed at me. All right.
Directed at you.
So I think So this issue is a really important one that's come before us, and I think we need to think really carefully about it. I've said previously that personally I'm in favour of changing the dates. I think it's the right thing to do, and I think the time has come. And I think we need to turn to our reconciliation committee more often and ask their views and their opinions much more frequently and take those on board. But I also do think that we need to consult broadly. So this is where I depart from Councillor Bull's view that he's just voiced, because I think there's a lot of different views in the community around what Australia Day means to a range of different groups in the community. And we heard some of those in the deputation previously when this came before us, and obviously people are entitled to those strong feelings and for it to be a contentious issue. But what I am going to ask the community, everyone in the community, is that those strong feelings don't, I suppose, sort of expand out into anger or into rage or into any kind of racism. And I'm going to basically say that, I think as a council we need to be very clear in this process that the city will not tolerate any form of racism as part of this consultation process. I will look to seek the CEO's guidance on how best to do that. But I fear that these kinds of things sometimes, particularly online, particularly in social media, will often descend into outright racism, and we need to not just allow that to happen in our community, but to actually stand up against it and make sure that it is completely stamped out. And the other thing that I'm going to also ask people is that we don't conflate this process with the referendum that is being held later this year about a voice to the federal parliament. They are quite separate processes. They are quite separate issues and objectives, and I fear again that people will merge the two in a way that really doesn't help us on our path forward with reconciliation.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Councillor Peterson-Pick.
Yes, thank you. Just a few comments. Look, I think it is unfortunate that the federal government, our federal government, has not resolved this issue, very sensitive issue by now. And nobody mentioned that. This is their role. This is in their jurisdiction. That is their job, and they should have done it by now. And it shouldn't take so long to resolve it, either way, so we can actually move on with our lives and focus on other issues, national issues. But it is an important issue for many people, and we should acknowledge it, but it should have been resolved. And what they did is actually put pressure on local governments. So instead of them making decisions, they changed the code, so we will make the decision what we're doing with our citizenship ceremonies, and that is a shame. It is a shame. We have so many federal members of parliament, and they should have actually resolved this. But it is now here on the table, following the proposal from the mayor several months ago. We need to make a decision, and not everyone feels inclusive. I do feel the whole thing here is watering down such a beautiful day. I received my citizenship on Australia Day. It was a very joyful day, and I think many other migrants would have loved to get their citizenships on Australia Day, whatever the date is, and what will happen now is we have citizenship ceremonies on a different day, and we are not going to have under this motion an event. So look, we're not going to have a really celebration as a local government for this important day for the country, in my view. So I think this is unfortunate in some way that we are now in this situation. I do have some concerns with regards to doing the awards and the ceremony only 3 days following Australia Day in 2021. If I understand it correctly, for example, in 2021, Australia Day was on Monday, so it means that the ceremony can only be on normal weekdays and not on a weekend, if I understand it correctly. And I think I would have thought it would be much better to have the flexibility that the code allows us to have 3 days before or after, sending our migrants who work very hard, and I know exactly what they are going through, to lose a day to get their citizenship. That's also a pity, and I think this is something that is part of this. I would have preferred to have the flexibility to have it on a weekend, but I understand the reasoning behind the reconciliation committee, and I respect that. They did not provide a recommendation, but this is what the city is proposing, and this is on the table. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? Councillor Sutherland.
Yeah, this is one of those things that comes up every Australia Day, and it is a federal government. Citizenship's always been a federal government job, but they've decided to go down the local government path and give us a choice. Firstly, I just want to talk a few things. I'd pick up on what Councillor Clark said about racism and all the argy-bargy that can occur in these things. People do get emotional about it. But I just want to give the definition of racism from the Australian Human Rights Commission. It's a process by which systems, policies, actions create inequitable opportunities and outcomes for people based on race. And having a husband come from South Africa, where he did see it and got out because of racism, and apartheid was just the most insidious thing we've ever had. He came to Australia, and so did lots of other people, because there was no or lack of racism. And I don't think we are a racist country, so I just want to get that out in the public sphere, because I'm quite tired of talking about all of this. I'm not supporting this, purely because it is a citizenship ceremony, and the date was chosen because of the act that came out in 1948, which I've said about a million times, where Australian citizenship, everybody in Australia citizenship was given to the Australians, and before that we were British subjects, and now we're all Australians. And because we've got 50% of people in Bayswater that come from all different countries and make Australia home, and Bayswater home, I think that day should stay to unify everybody. So I'm not supporting any of it.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? I'll just say that I respect Councillor Bull's foreshadowed motion, even though councillors weren't provided advanced notice of it to give us time to duly consider that. I do understand it. However, I will be supporting what's on the table, because I think with everything that we do, we consult. We consult with our community. We just don't make decisions without broader consultation. I can't think of any thing off the top of my head at the moment where we've just made a big decision like this, a big decision that a lot of people care about, without going out to consultation and hearing from our community. I think that's really important. I don't want to set a precedent that we just make decisions without consultation, if that's what we go on about, that we do as a council, and that we care about our entire community and giving them the option to have their say, because we represent our entire community. So on that basis, I support going out and letting people have their say. So I'll go to the mover to close. I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? That's Councillor Maleka, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Deputy Mayor, Councillor Peterson-Pitt, Councillor Clark, Councillor Johnson and myself. All those against is Councillor Eveson, Councillor Sutherland and Councillor Bull. That is carried. So the next item is 10.5.1, Tender 6, 2023 Design, Supply and Installation of Grandstand Seating at Morley Rec, and that is pulled by Councillor Maleka. Are you moving the officer's recommendation?
Yes, I am.
Seconded Councillor Sutherland. Councillor Maleka.
Okay, just quickly, look, we need a grandstand. It's the missing element of our community asset. It will help attract state competition, increase visitation, and according to the report, once it's constructed, it's intended to have an asset life of 30 years, so it will outlive me, probably. So yeah, look, it's just, we need to do it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Sutherland.
Yeah, I want to say...
Sorry, just one moment. Councillor Clark.
Sorry, my apologies, Councillor Sutherland. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm going to have to go look after my son, but Thank you,
Thank
everyone,
you.
and apologies.
Sorry, Councillor Sutherland, please continue.
Yeah, look, I totally support this. I think I went to the Willerton basketball stadium last night, and they got 8 courts and grandstand. It's huge, and it just sort of consolidated my thoughts on having a grandstand. I look forward to this infrastructure, and I think we can get some good games. Basketball, we heard a great deputation last week. Basketball is a huge game in this part of the world. And I think this will only add benefits for it, not just socially, but also economically, because more and more people will come to this. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Anyone speaking against? Anyone for? Councillor Eason?
Yeah, probably just quickly, because I've played basketball since I was 5. So, look, great inclusion. We've got the best courts in the state. So really can't wait to get this grandstand in and start using those courts in CMBL 1, hopefully in Morley Rec very shortly.
Thank you. Anyone speaking against? Anyone for? Councillor Palmer?
I think this will be the icing on the cake. For the last few years, we've seen the expansion, and it's been opened with yourself, Madam Mayor. $4 to $5 million, I think the city has expended. So this is the icing on the cake to have this stairway there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone speaking against? Anyone? Deputy Mayor?
Not against, just to clarify that there was a good couple of millions from the state government, not all from us.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? If not, I'll go the mover to close.
Nothing further to add, thanks.
I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. Next item is 10.6.1.1, because it's an absolute majority required. It's the City of Bayswater Annual Report and Annual Financial Report. Can I have a mover? Councillor Palmer, do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Palmer. Deputy Mayor, anyone wish to speak against? If not, I'll put it straight to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Maleka, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Eveson, Councillor Sutherland, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Peterson-Pick, Councillor Johnson and myself. All those against, Councillor Bull. That's carried. The next item is 10.6.1.2, Office of the Auditor General Information Systems Audit. Councillor Bull, you've pulled this. Are you moving the officer's recommendation?
I am happy to. I just have a question.
Okay, I'll just remind councillors that there is a confidential attachment. So if you're going to refer to that, we'll need to go behind closed doors. Go ahead.
Actually, I'm probably going to seek an amendment. I read the committee's recommendation in Lim 2, and I think it just needs a rejig, because it says the council adopts notes the Audit and Risk Management Committee ... I was wondering if it just needs a finesse. So it says the council adopts notes the Audit and Risk Management Committee has requested the management priorities.
Okay, we'll get the...
So remove the notes, Councillor Bull?
No, you'd be removing adopts and putting adopts in the one.
Yes.
1 and 3. No, it's just one. Council 1 adopts, 2 notes, and 3 CO report.
Maybe request?
Yes, request the CO 2 report.
Councillor Bull, are you happy with that amendment?
Yep.
And you're moving it as this on the screen?
Yep.
Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bull?
I won't add too much. The reason why I pulled it was just to make sure that was a workable recommendation. Just want to acknowledge the work of the Office of the Auditor General around these things. I know there's a significant workload, and it's important that the Office of the Auditor General undertakes these kinds of audits. And I thank the members of the Audit Committee for their work on this as well.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor. Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone for? If not, I'll put it straight to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. The next item which has been pulled is 10.6.1.5 Quarterly Performance Review Audit Function, Quarter 3. Councillor Bull, you've pulled this one. Are you moving officer's recommendation?
Happy to do that. I just have a question or two.
Okay, I'll just seek a seconder first. Councillor Palmer, Councillor Bull.
Thank you. I just want to ask a question about the overdue items in the table on the second page of the report.
So I just confirm there is confidential attachment, so this isn't part of the confidential attachment?
I actually downloaded the public
Agenda?
public agenda to make sure that I don't talk about confidentials because I get concerned about that. So page 687 of the public agenda has a table where it says the below table depicts the status of actions by audit. Yes, just making sure that's all good. Yes, got me nervous now, Madam Mayor, that I'm... and we have 38 items that are overdue. In the overdue actions, it says management is progressing to implement those actions, and I am just interested to hear some feedback on when those actions are likely to be completed.
I'll go to the Manager of Governance.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The date for implementation for those overdue actions will be different depending on the action. We are making quite good progress on our audit log at the moment, so you'll see in the audit report that from the last report we have closed out 25 actions, but of course we've added 12 new ones. But overall we are decreasing the number of audit actions, including those that are overdue. I can say that a number of the overdue actions relate to audit items found in the financial sustainability report from Paxton in 2020, and also from previous audits that relate to things like our long-term financial plan and our business planning process, and a number of those findings will actually be implemented come 27 June when the council considers the annual budget, the corporate business plan and the long-term financial plan. A number of those actions will then be closed out at that point.
Thank you. I'm happy to speak, if that's okay. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it because this is a great opportunity for the public to hear some feedback from the city around the work that it's doing, the really important work that it's doing through the audit function. And when I think back to when I first joined council and became a member of the Audit and Risk Management Committee back then to where it is now, it is really a testament to staff, the members of the committee and also the independent members as well, that we are now have embedded this continuous improvement culture. The reality is the audit log will concertina, it will get larger and smaller and probably will never be zero, because when you're working on continuous improvement, that is the case. So I'd just like to thank everyone for their hard work and may it continue.
Thank you. Councillor Palmer? Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone for? If not, I'll put it straight to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. The next item is 10.6.1.7 Quarterly Performance Review Corporate Quarter 3. Councillor Bull. Again, officer's recommendation?
Yeah, committee's recommendation, officer's recommendation, yep.
Yep. Seconded, Councillor Palmer. Councillor Bull.
Just a quick question again. Page 693 of the public agenda has one on hold item, progress comment Q3. The digitisation project is pending formal budget approval. And then it says the operational participation rate for savings records to ECM continues to be below the optimal level, which is due in part to start turnover. We are currently working on ways to resolve this issue. I'd be interested to hear a bit more around what is being done to work on ways to resolve that issue.
Thank you. I'll go to the governance manager to respond, or not. I'll go to the director.
Through you, Madam Mayor. It's become aware at the city that our level of usage of our record keeping system isn't optimal, and we do need to look at ways of improving that through training and partnering with the different branch areas to actually improve that, and also providing some information to councillors about record keeping requirements.
Thank you. Speak briefly again. Thank you for that. I think it's, again, really excellent to get a bit of colour around these things. More important work being undertaken through this performance review, and acknowledge the staff, councillors who are on the committee, and also independent members for their work and the importance of delivering these continuous improvement feedback reports.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer.
Thank you. I went through all of these audit items with a bit of a headache, but it was worth going through. Something that I just really need to ask, and I apologise it's on such a late date, because I live opposite the Noranda shopping centre, is that considered to be any type of declaration, as I live in McGilvray Avenue and this says Noranda Town Centre?
I'll go to the governance manager to respond.
I'll beg.
Sorry, Councillor Palmer, through you, Madam Mayor. The matter before the council is corporate performance reporting. The matter before the council is not about Noranda, so you don't have to declare an interest.
Thank you very much. So yes, I concur with Councillor Bull on this one and congratulate the CPIs and so forth. Thank you, Mr. CEO.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone for? I'll put it straight to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you, councillors. So we'll now move to adopt the remaining items in section 10 on block. Can I have a mover? Councillor Palmer, seconded Councillor Maleka. Put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. So we'll now move to notices of motion. The first one is 11.1, Councillor Eveson, Better Bins Plus Go Fogo bin size transition. Councillor Councillor Sutherland, you seconding? Yeah, okay. Councillor Eveson, would you like to read it out?
Yep. So the motion is that Council requests the Chief Executive Officer to draft a report to be considered at the Ordinary Council meeting of August 2023 on the implications of exiting the Better Bins Plus Go Fogo curbside collection program agreement. Cool. Sorry, I'm just getting my notes. So this motion seeks to provide our community with choice for their waste service needs. One size doesn't fit all, and Council need to understand all options possible when considering provision of a waste service. We need to reflect on the diversity of our community, but most of all, we need to make informed decisions by understanding all of our options. Supporting this motion means Council want to seek and understand options for waste services and make an informed choice. Nothing more. It's not committing to anything other than a report being completed, so Council can be duly informed on the topic that our community see as bread and butter local government.
Thank you. Councillor Sutherland.
Yeah, I haven't got much to add on that. I think we should just have a report to see, if we can have a choice. I certainly want to make it clear in this forum that I want to keep the large bins in if people like them. I know in my area that there's no appetite at this stage for reducing the size of bins. So I think this report will give people choice, because I know there are people that do like the smaller bins, and there is no one size fit all.
Thank you.
Especially with the different housing, housing choices that are coming up in the city of Bayswater when we get more high density.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I've got a question, but I'll make it's two statements actually, really. So I didn't support the small bins in the first place, so I'm pleased to see something, at least looking at some varying options. So if people do want to downsize a bin, or they want to retain a big bin, or whatever. General statement wise though, once again with financial implications, it's about the the grant funding, but there's no implications in terms of this actual motion. So I would like to see just a bit more rigour into reports as to officers' time, length of time to do a report, things like that, because I think that is something that needs to be considered.
Thank you. Anyone speaking against? Councillor Bull.
Let's ask a question. So the mover and the seconder talked about how this motion is seeking to provide choice, but I can't, all it says is the implications on exiting the program. So can the mover or the seconder just explain where the choice bit comes in? I can't even see it in the report.
Does the mover wish to respond? Or I'll go to the director to respond.
Through the chair, I mean, the recommendation that's there, or the motion that's there, basically talks about providing a report on the implications of exiting the funding agreement. Part of that report will be that it will look at various options and what the scenarios would be to really give a good indication of what those implications are.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question. Options on what?
I'll go to the director.
At this stage, what we're probably looking at is options in terms of what it would be like to actually stay with the agreement and how much it will cost, and also look at if we were to do something different, what are those different options that we can look at and how they'd possibly work.
Thanks. I'm not going to support this. I don't see, the mover and the seconder have spoken about choice for people. I presume they're talking about choice about whether it's a big bin or small bin. I don't understand how people wouldn't be able to have a bigger bin if they wished to at the time in which council decided to implement the program. In any event, the report very clearly says that the decision can't be revoked. So I don't even know how far the report can go. It definitely says council's decision to accept the funding can't be revoked. So without the mover actually clearly explaining where, what new choice there's going to be as a consequence of this, it seems to me that the implications of exiting is that we can't revoke. So that means you can't exit, which means it's a nothing motion, really.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? Councillor Palmer. Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor first.
Sorry, I just had a quick question through the chair, if I may, to the relevant director.
Yep.
So if I can just expand further on what Councillor Bull is alluding to with this about it not being able to be revoked. So because it can't be revoked, I just want to tease out here. So does that means that the report would be able to look at pivoting it and so that we can't revoke it, but we could explore options with, the Better Bins Plus in terms of redirecting in other areas. Can you just explain that bit for me a bit more?
Through the chair, I think we can't revoke it simply because we've received the funding and we've spent it. So the way, what would happen is that if we don't meet the conditions of the agreement, we'll be basically in breach of the agreement and we'd have to return the funding.
So if I may just follow on through the chair with another question. So then a report could theoretically come back and say there are no other options, that we can't do anything, that we have to go down to the smaller bins, or I just want to understand what exactly we're looking at, because I'm under the impression that it will go away for a report to look at what else we can do in terms of downsizing, people choosing to downsize bins or not downsize bins, that would still meet the terms of the agreement and not revoke the agreement.
Through the chair, that's right. We can look at various options because there are some variations that they can accept under the agreement. So we can look at what those variations are and how far we can go with those variations. But at the same time, we'll be also presenting the comparison of if we don't meet the conditions, what will happen and what will it cost.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Palmer.
Thank you. Similar subject and query. So we've had the money, we've spent it. We can't revoke the legal contract, but we can flex it by saying, okay, well, we've bought these bins. Now, those bins are costing us 1,507,000. Yes, is that correct?
Through the chair, we haven't bought any bins yet, so.
But that's what's
there's an
part of the
estimate costs
contract.
in the report.
That's what's part of the contract here, yeah? That we've had 447,000, but the actual outlay is 1,500,000 roughly. So we have to do it whether we like it or not.
Go to the director.
Yeah, through the chair, the $450,000 that we've received, we have spent that. Sorry about that. Yeah, in terms of the $450,000 that's been received, we did purchase bin caddies and delivered those, and purchased bags and other items that allowed us to go to the FOGO program. In terms of the actual smaller bins, they haven't been purchased yet, but if we follow the agreement, then we'll have to commit to those funds to purchase those bins and get them delivered.
So we're obligated to buy the bins. Are we obligated to give back the bigger bins that we have?
Through the chair, those the current
They
bins
belong to Cleanaway.
Sorry, the current bins are owned by Cleanaway. So yeah, we've got a choice of buying those bins under our current contract, but if we were to go and change the bin sizes, we wouldn't purchase those particular bins that we're replacing.
Thank you. So can I ask, if we're buying the bigger or smaller bins, is that involved or included in that 1,500 plus, 1,500,000 plus? Both bins, bigger and smaller?
I believe those costs are for the purchase of the smaller bins and for their delivery to the residences.
Thank you.
Do you wish to speak, Councillor Palmer? Anyone else wish to speak on this? Councillor Peterson-Pick.
Yeah, look, I'll be quick. I will support this because I would like to get more information about the whole thing. You know, the bins, the options, the grant, everything. And I think we are missing quite a lot of information with all those questions, and I asked quite a lot last week. So I will support it because I think it's quite a serious issue that will have impact on every resident in the city of Bayswater. I don't think there are so many issues that will impact each one of them. So I think we should all fully aware of all the options, everything, whether Cleanaway can swap. I asked that question, can swap maybe the smaller bins if people want smaller bins, all those options, because I'm not clear. So I will support it on that basis.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? If not, I'll go the mover to close. I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Maleka, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Easton, Councillor Sutherland, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Peterson-Pick and myself. All those against? Councillor Bull and Councillor Johnson. That is carried. Okay, the next item is 11.2, Councillor Easton, Waste Management Services. Do I have a Deputy Mayor seconding? Councillor Easton, would you like to read it out?
Yep. So that council requests the Chief Executive Officer to, number 1, investigate the city's management of ancillary waste services with the aim of streamlining processes for residents and city administration staff. 2, present a report to council by December 2023 with recommendations regarding A, the annual household entitlements of tip passes and bulk bins, and B, the transition from paper tip passes to an electronic self-service system. Cool. Look, it is getting on, so I won't take too much time. But look, this motion came up after a simple conversation with our lovely staff working at the customer service desk, and they mentioned that they were somewhat dreading Tip Pass Month, as they called it, and the relentless issuing of tip passes that happens every year. And this motion just seeks to provide options forward to provide improved customer service and streamline the city's undertakings to ensure that we can keep providing a great service without unnecessary waste. And that pun's intended.
Deputy Mayor. Anyone speaking against? Anyone for? Councillor Palmer?
Yeah, I'm speaking for this because I think when I went through the 4 items of the audit and risk, there was the ERP expressions there, not confidential. And it seems as that it's going to be on the go anyway. We're going to be streamlining that anyway, so this is part of it. So I'll support it for that reason.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this? If not, I'll go the mover to close. I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you. The next item is 11.3, Councillor Peterson-Pick, sharing promotional activities amongst councillors. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Bull, Councillor Peterson-Pick, if you could read it out, please.
Yes, thank you. That Council requests the Chief Executive Officer to present the communications and social media policy for consideration. I have amended that, councillors, by the Policy Review and Development Committee, and then by Council prior to the 2023 local government elections. The revised draft policy is to include a process to be applied after the elections for sharing promotion of activities undertaken by the city or with the city's involvement equally amongst elected members.
So I'll just be clear, councillors, there's just a minor change to this one and you would have been issued an addendum, I believe. It's just the one word. It's highlighted on the screen. Please continue, councillor.
Yes, thank you. Look, I'm first just clarifying the change that I made. My intention was just to consider this issue as part of that policy and not to review the whole policy that what was suggested by the city. So I'm removing it and bringing it back to what my original proposal was. All the issue around when we're going to review the policy and how we're going to incorporate it with other policies, that should be done separately after the election as proposed by the city. That was not my intention to get involved with all this work. We just need to look at how we add 1, 2, 3 clauses with regards to this process. So that's what we are, what I'm proposing here. Look, together with the city officers, including the CEO, all councillors around the table are, from my point of view, are the face of the local government. Not one person, and not 2 persons, and not 3 or 4. All of us are part of the decision making. This is what we're doing here the whole night and every week and for many years now. For some of us, we are involved with the decisions. We are part of them. We are going to events. We should be invited to all events. We communicate with the public. We are the face of the local government. I do have in particular concerns what will happen after the election. We are going to have, for the first time in the city of Bayswater, a publicly elected mayor. I don't want to see what we can see, I think, in some other shires, that the mayor, publicly elected mayor, believes that they are, you know, and they deserve to have it all. And currently, we do not have really a clear process around this issue. And I would like to ensure that after the elections, and this will apply after the elections, there are no changes this term. I'm not planning to change anything with regards to the current mayor. We will have a clear process, so every councillor will feel that he or she are part of the process, part of this promotion of what we do to the public. This power can be and has been used to promote specific councillors or exclude others. It is happened here. It happened in other local governments. This will stop it for good. And from my perspective, it will be an important step forward to having a united and a harmonious council where all councillors feel that they are part of it and not excluded. No matter who is the mayor in the future, it will apply in 2030. We're all part of it, and that will ensure that that will stay like that. It will reduce tensions, and yeah, we'll have this lovely process, and we can settle this issue and focus on other matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bull.
Thank you. I think this will be really helpful for the organisation to have some clear guidance on how decisions are made in terms of which councillors will be involved in different promotional activities, most particularly on social media, now that the majority of promotional activities are on social media. There is my observation now, and also when I was mayor, was that there was a good process in terms of sharing the promotional activities through the Bayswater Beat. Have a mayor's message, which is completely appropriate. Notwithstanding, my mayor's message didn't make the second last Bayswater Beat edition before we went into Caretaker, even though it came out prior to Caretaker. If it was during Caretaker, that would have been completely appropriate. But it is shared amongst councillors, and that is I think it's proven to be a really good system. In terms of social media, there isn't a process, and ultimately it is an operational decision which councillors are involved in which promotional activities. And the last thing I'll mention is that I did a very quick scan of the city's Facebook page, just scrolling down in terms of photos with councillors, and this is who appears in the top 46. Deputy Mayor, 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 Central Ward Councillor, Deputy Mayor, 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 Central Ward Councillor, Mayor, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, North Ward Councillor, West Ward Councillors are Mayor, 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 Central Ward Councillor, Mayor, 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 North Ward Councillors, Mayor, Mayor, Mayor and Deputy Mayor, Mayor and Deputy Mayor, Central Ward Councillor, North Ward Councillor, Mayor, Mayor, Central Ward Councillor, North Ward Councillor, Deputy Mayor, Deputy Mayor, 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 Central Ward Councillor, North Ward Councillor.
Would anyone like to speak against this? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I actually do agree with the statements from the mover and the seconder. And I would like to thank the staff for all of the background and considerations presented in this report. I will say that it is a bit disappointing to see notices of motion being presented that have used officers' time to prepare a report on an issue that doesn't actually have any community benefit and is already on the schedule to be considered by the potentially new council post-2023 LG elections, incorporating all of the different ones as mentioned in the opening. So this notice of motion has used officers' time to prepare a report to tell us what we already know and what the Local Government Act clearly states, that the mayor is the spokesperson for the local government. And just like other things as well, the presiding member is the spokesperson for JDAP, for WALGA, for EMRC. It's like that everywhere. Just a few months ago, this council unanimously adopted the policy review schedule, which lists this policy to be reviewed in November this year. And this motion lacks any explanation as to why there is an urgency to bring the review of the policy forward. In fact, the notice of motion itself states the implementation should not be until after the elections in October. If you look through the schedule of all the policies to be reviewed this year, I'm sure the community would agree that there are other policies which would be considered more important to bring forward than this one. Strategic budget, fraud and corruption, asset management, occupational safety and health, just to name a few. So again, I raise the question, why has a report been prepared on a policy review that's not urgent and was already supported unanimously by this council this year to be reviewed in November? Councillors, we're here to make strategic decisions for the benefit of our community, not focus on policy process for councillor self-promotion purposes. And honestly, I think it's a bit belittling to suggest our community are not aware that all elected members are involved in the decision-making process. I'll be supporting the city staff and our council, this council, which unanimously voted just this year to review this policy in November.
Thank you. Anyone speaking for? Anyone speaking against? I'll just say, I wasn't going to speak on this, but given the comments by Councillor Bull that said Mayor a lot, I'll just say that the reason I may turn up in my position as Mayor is that's my job. That's my job, is to be the spokesperson. It's in the Local Government Act. I'm a full-time mayor. I was expressly told by the community, you shouldn't have another job if you're going to be mayor. You've got to be the full-time mayor. And when you're a full-time mayor, you're available to go and do these, speak on behalf of what the city's doing. Tell the community what we're doing. It's in the Act. That's my job. So I don't make any apologies for actually doing my job. And if it's not me, it's whoever is in this position. So I kind of felt a bit attacked in that. So I sorry that I have to say this, that I'm actually just doing my job. Anyone else wish to speak on this? If not, I'll go the mover to close.
Thank you. Look, I'll just respond quickly to some of the comments that were made here. The mayor will continue to be the spokesperson of the city. This is under the legislation. Communications will continue to be done by the mayor or delegated to the CEO, to anyone else. That is not what we are discussing here. We are talking about promotion activities. This is not necessarily needs to be done just by the mayor or just by the deputy mayor, whoever the mayor is, whoever the deputy. My references here are generally about any council. I'd like to think that all councillors want to have an inclusive council and not just a few. I know that some councillors in previous council objected to the process that is none and felt excluded. But now suddenly with the other deputy mayor, suddenly they feel like, oh, the process is fine, accepted.
Councillor Peterson-Pick,
Of course, accepted.
are you withdrawing that?
Yeah, I will withdraw everything. Apology, you will not get.
Sorry, just 1 second. Deputy Mayor has withdrawn his comment, so it's been addressed.
Yes. But Deputy Mayor, you have been discussing this issue for many years, being felt like you are excluded. Now bringing this process. No, I'm allowed to actually.
Councillor Peterson-Pick, a point of order has been called. What's the point of order?
Explanation. He's stating stuff. I'm entitled to a personal explanation.
That is correct.
I have not finished.
The point of order, Councillor, read the standing orders.
So that point of order is upheld and the Deputy Mayor has the opportunity to explain herself.
Thank you. Yes, I have been previously hurt by a lack of media opportunity, but the thing that I complained about the most was actually being cut out of photos, which has happened numerous times, but has not happened recently for the last 18 months. So for 4 years, I was physically, well, not physically myself, but actually cut out of photos to the point where a shoulder was left in and people would contact me and say, were you in that photo? I can see your shoulder and you posted the whole photo. So that's what I used to go on about.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson-Pick.
You make changes when you are in power. And this is what I expect the mayor, the deputy, and everyone else here to make the changes now to secure a right process for the future. You do not make those brave changes when you are in a position. You make it now, and this is the onus on those who benefit from the lack of process. And we have councillors who feel excluded. And there are so many tensions around this council. It should be said, this council is divided, and I hear so many concerns from so many councillors, and it is so unfortunate. I try to bring...
Councillor Peterson-Pick, a point of order has been called by Councillor Eveson. What's your point of order?
Adverse reflection.
That is upheld, Councillor. Please withdraw that comment.
So I'm not allowed to say that there is a divisive council?
No.
Even if we do have a divisive council?
That's your opinion, Councillor.
But I'm speaking my opinion here.
And that's an adverse reflection on this council.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I will continue. Okay, look, obviously for
Sorry,
those...
have you withdrawn that comment?
I will withdraw everything. I have to. Do I have to? Madam Mayor, do I have to withdraw it?
I'll just seek some advice.
Please seek some advice.
Unless you wish to move a motion of dissent against my ruling on the standing order, on the point of order.
No.
Okay, then you need to withdraw it.
I will withdraw it and I will continue. And I feel like what's happening here now is exactly what I'm talking about, but I'm not allowed to say what's happening on the council, so I will continue. I thought this is one step towards having an inclusive and united and harmonious council. There are lots of things to fix, and we can't fix all of them tonight, and it will take a process. I thought by proposing it after the election will reduce some of the opposition, but it hasn't. I still hope that the mayor will support it. The mayor will still be the mayor, whoever is going to be the mayor. But this is, with the officers, is the council. The council makes the decision. I remember the mayor was speaking constantly. The mayor does not have so many powers, it's the council. So the council needs to be the face when it comes to letting people know what we are doing here with the officers. I hope all councils will support it. And remember the aim behind this. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put this to the vote. All those in favour? It's Councillor Palmer, Councillor Peterson-Pick, Councillor Bull and Councillor Johnson. All those against, Councillor Maleka, Councillor Eveson, Councillor Sutherland, Deputy Mayor and myself. That is lost. So we now move on to item 12, questions from members without notice. Are there any questions? No. We'll now move on to item 13, new business of an urgent nature. There is none this evening. Confidential items. We have one confidential item this evening. Can I please have a mover and a seconder to go behind closed doors? Move Councillor Bull, seconded Councillor Palmer. Put that to the vote. All those in favour is Councillor Maleka, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Eveson, Councillor Sutherland, Councillor Bull, Councillor Johnson and myself. All those against, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Peterson-Pick. Can we please close the doors and the live stream? I will close this evening's meeting at 10:30. Thank you, councillors. There you go.